And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit, like God's property. It's hard to market, so we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. 'Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
the same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
Most Egyptologists and anthropologists, archaeologists of the Eurocentric persuasion will say that Egypt is in Africa. They had to concede that, but then they still draw the line by saying that they weren't Africans like that. In other words, they weren't dark-skinned people. And of course, this is all part of the Great Deception. And the reality is that if they give up Egypt, ancient Kemet, if they give that up and say that that was a part of black Africa, then they will also have to give up Israel. And that's why they draw the line at Egypt, because if they give up Egypt, they've got to give up Israel.
Now, we're going to go over here, and I'm going to show you where Israel sits on the African tectonic plate, which means that Israel is northeast Africa. Now, when we look at this map, this is the Sinai, okay? This is the Red Sea. This is Egypt. This is the Sinai. This is Israel. All right, this is Saudi Arabia over here. Now, if you see this in Hebrew, it says Haluach Afrikani, the African plate. Here it is right here. Israel is sitting right here. Israel is sitting on the Haluach Afrikani, which means that Israel is northeast Africa.
Without question, we are in northeast Africa. We are landlocked to Egypt, with the exception of the Suez Canal, which was a man-made ditch, a boundary now between, in fact, it's not even really a boundary anymore since Egypt has reclaimed the Sinai Peninsula. But nevertheless, even those of us who are Pan-Africanists in our thinking and Afrocentric, we forget and we leave off that portion of northeast Africa and don't want to claim anything beyond that.
Europeans classified this area as a Middle East, you know, and then since this the Middle East, the other question, where the Middle West, where the Middle North, and where the Middle South? They don't have no geographical terms like that.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean,
over the Caribbean,
South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
This gentleman right here. Huh? What happened? No, this gentleman right here with the camera in his hand. Wave your hand. Pastor
James Wesley Carr.
Yeah, James Wesley Carr. No. What's your name?
Oh, Kelly Richardson.
Kelly Richardson.
Pastor Kelly Richardson.
He is a great-great-grand-nephew?
Yeah.
Nephew of one of our first pastors. Yeah, matter of fact, that's his uncle right here in the corner of the actual stained glass window here to your left.
You got the eyes.
He looked just like him. Got the same eyes. Anyway, come on, guys. Come on. That's funny. Up there looking like. Look on the outside edge of the pews. Look on the outside edge of the pews where you are. You see the different markings alongside the edge of the pews? They represent the different tribes that made up our congregation back then and spoke over 6 different languages among themselves. These were small tribes enslaved by larger tribes and sold to Europeans as they came along the African coast. One of the major languages they spoke back then was that of Aramaic and also two of Hebrew, which means the writings read from bottom to top. Assalamu alaikum. Which means, peace be unto you. It's not a Muslim term. It's actually the same greeting which Christ gave to the disciples when he met them in that region. Most countries in that region read from right to left. Here in America, we read from left to right. That's why the pastors in the stained glass window up front here are going in numbers 2 through 7 from the right-hand side over to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
להתחיל לאסוף את המסתננים, לא צריך לחכות לבג"ץ, לא צריך שום דבר.
אני רואה חרא מחוץ לבית שלי, יריקות, פסיכופטים, אנשים שרק מחפשים איך לרצוח אותי בעיניים שלהם, אבל אף אחד לא מאמין לנו. אנחנו גזענים כדי לרצות לשמור על החיים שלנו ועל השפיות שלנו. אז אני גאה בלהיות גזענית, אם אני גזענית בשביל לשמור על החיים שלי, אז אני גאה.
אל תפושי לנסוע! אל תנסוע עם פושי! לכי את והוא! תלכי מפה! תלכי! אל תנסוע עם פושי! לכי! לא מתפעלתם!
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
נחשף ביערות בורקינה פאסו של קניבלים נטו. שלום למנהיג השבט קזבובו.
שלום עליכם. אברהם יצחק יעקב, יודע עברית, שולחן, חשבונית, קובי פרץ, מוטלס, יבוטאו.
מר קזבובו, כולנו כאן בישראל מופתעים ונרגשים נוכח האפשרות שתעלו ארצה.
קזבובו שמח, 2000 שנות גלות נגמר, רואים אור בקצה של מנהרה.
אתם בטוחים שאתם יהודים?
התחלנו על חנן. אם הוא שחור הוא לא יהודי?
לא בגלל שהוא שחור, הוא...
מה?
קניבל.
ומי אתה שתגיד לו מה לאכול, אם הוא קניבל, הוא לא יהודי?
אולי תבוא, תעשה אצלנו שבת?
זה לא שיש לי משהו אישי נגדכם, אבל הפלשמורה למשל תקועים.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
The white man is an acting telling a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries. And, you know, it's the Renaissance. Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
There's only one true ethnic Jew, the Mizrahi Jew, because they are Africans, and if you read the original Bible written in Phoenician Hebrew, they're not. Jewish people are not Europeans. The modern Jews in Israel are Russians or Khazars to be precise, from Russia. I learned it from my grandfather that he was because he was an Ashkenazi Jew.
I'm telling you a history about Israel and Egypt and Africa, and they act like them in whole different places. I mean, if I told you Atlanta and Florida was in the South, I'm telling the truth, right? That's the same distance between Israel, Egypt, and Africa. Israel, Egypt, and Africa. Israel, Egypt, and Africa. If I told you...
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Hope and pray that you guys has had a great Shabbat. We had a great Shabbat here, and looking forward to our feast this upcoming week. Look forward to seeing you guys, those that are going to come on out and visit us. Look forward to seeing you guys. Let me adjust my mic up a little bit more. Look forward to you guys, some that are coming to, that's going to press out and come and bless and celebrate this upcoming feast days with us. Look forward to meeting some of you guys. Also, we will have it live for those that may not be able to travel the distance to come out and celebrate with us, but we're going to have a great time. There's no cost, everything is free. I don't believe in charging our people to come to celebrate our own birthday party. Even when we used to do church/pastoral anniversary, we never did all the fundraisers that many ministries do. We never had that thing where as though selling plates and all that other stuff, paying this, requiring the members, part of the assembly, to have to pay, to celebrate. So we never had those things in our assembly. Never had those things. We always, anytime we had functions, we open it up to everyone. I think the only time we ever had to charge for a function was like a skating event. And, that's the only time that we ever had to charge for an event. But outside of that, we make it an assertive effort to make sure that the people or the Most High don't have to be charged anything. I mean, people are sowing their money by way of the tithes and offering. So why should they be nickel and dime for everything that they have to? I mean, everything, you know what I mean? But really appreciate you guys. I want to say peace and blessings, and I'm going to get through some of these shout outs here, but we'll do it as we progress here. But I see some names here. I want to say peace and blessings to my sister Ashonda. Family, if you don't know, she has a great channel doing great work for the kingdom, for this awakening. So support our sister here. See my sister Carol, holding it down. I really appreciate her. She's been following me since really when I made the transition, shortly after I made the transition of our ministry coming out of Christianity, just after I did the Black Lives Matter message. She was one of the early ones that started following me on social media because, prior to that Black Lives Matter message, I was kind of like a local, kind of hidden, embedded in the local DMV area. But that Black Lives Matter allowed me to message by going viral or whatever. It allowed me to meet so many different people. So I appreciate my sister here. Appreciate my buddy Jay Highstyle. I see you in the building. Gotta get caught up. I know we haven't talked in a little bit, but really appreciate the love and support, my brother. And I'm going to drop the link inside the comment section, family, when we get to a certain place that we can, a stopping point. But we got a lot to cover. I want to say peace and blessings to Yah, Son, and also to all the moderators that are holding it down. I mean, I know when we teach certain subjects, man, people just they behave as if they just lost their mind. I mean, the trolls come out. When I do certain subjects, trolls come out. I mean, you see trolls start, in a nutshell, trolling and posting, spamming all kinds of perverted things. So, and it normally happens especially when I deal with the subject of witchcraft. The subject of witchcraft, it seems, it tends to bring those trolls out. And I'm gonna prove the point next time we do it. I may the teaching again, calculated witchcraft or maybe Christian witches, and watch how you see the trolls come out. So a lot of stuff going on. Let me go ahead and put my Cash App information here for those that want to sow into what we're doing here, because I get asked this a lot. So I'm trying to get better at posting this information. Let's see here. Let me put this up here. All right. So moderators, you guys know what to do. If anyone is acting crazy, you guys already know what to do, especially those that are just blatantly being a distraction to what we're doing tonight. All right. Taken away from the overall subject of what we're discussing. All right. So family, what we're going to deal with tonight, and, you see the topic, not keeping the Passover. Why? Because I don't have to. I am not keeping the Passover because I don't have to. All right. How many of you guys have heard that before? I'm not required to keep the Passover. Right. We're going to cover some of those things. I don't have to keep the Passover because I am not required to. Some of the other things we hear is, we don't have, the temple there's no temple. So we're not required to keep any of the feast days, or we don't have our own land. So we're not required to keep the feast days. These are some of the things that we hear of the non-blood descendants of Israel. They don't have to keep the feast days, right? Because, hey, they're not, it's only for the Israelites. Have you guys heard some of those things? Again, they'll say, hey, there's two laws, one for Israel and one for the non-blood descendants of Israel. The non-blood descendants of Israel don't have to keep it. So we're going to touch on a lot of this. We're going to answer quite a few of these questions to show that, hey, these things that people are basically pushing, it's not biblical. It's not biblical. A lot of these talking points that people are pushing is not biblical. All right. So we got a lot to cover here. And I know that there's going to be a number of garbage cans that we give out. I want to say peace and blessings to Stay on Fire Ministry. I want to say peace and blessing. I'm just seeing some names here, trying to catch you as I go. Andrea Leggett, I want to say peace and blessings to you. Chosen Indeed, Ivana Thompson Hammer. Who else here? Of course, I got my sister here, Ashonda, Sister Yvette Rivera, want to say peace and blessings to you. I'm just looking at some of the names real quick. Diamond Love, in other words, Sister Diamond. Van P, peace and blessings to you. Air Nova. Let's see. I'm just trying to get a few of them in here before we get started. Sister Joy, you love Yah. Got quite a few. The chat is starting to pick up, but get a few more in. Priscilla Sharp, Ayawa Evans. Who else do we have here? I'm just going to call a few more out here. Jason Camford, peace and blessings to you, my brother. Thank you for the love and support. Lamar Thorne, Mariah, to be more specific. Ari Lynn, Victorious Ron. Let's see here. Silver Harmonics. Peace and blessings to you. Cindy, Sister Cindy. Who else? Let's see here. All right. Wanted to give a few shout outs. Polar Vibes. Want to say peace and blessings to you. All right. Let's see. Who else do we have here before we get started? Want to again give my buddy Jay Highstyle some love here. Really appreciate you. All right. The back in the day name, Jay Highstyle, remind me back in the day. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here, family. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's answer some of these questions because we got a lot, as I said, we got a lot to cover tonight. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. Not keeping the Passover. I don't have to. All right. Not keeping the Passover. I don't have to. So let's deal with the objectives, right? We're going to answer this question. What is the Passover? Did the Hebrew Israelite Messiah honor the Passover? Did his disciples honor the Passover? Did Apostle Paul honor the Passover? Did Yah put an end to the Passover? Did Abraham become a Hebrew by crossing over into the land of Canaan? We got a lot of questions to answer. Did the non-blood descendants of Israel struggle to keep the Shabbat? All right, so let's go ahead and get into it, family. We got a lot of questions to answer here tonight. We have a lot of questions to answer here tonight. So there's going to be a lot of garbage cans that's going to be given out tonight. A lot of garbage cans. You guys are going to see this a few times. All right. But again, appreciate the love and support. If you haven't, let's get the likes up to 100, at least 100 likes right now. We have almost 200 people watching right now. So let's get those likes up to 100. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Also, for those that are not or may not know about the extended channel, the alternate channel, because YouTube is doing all kinds of crazy stuff trying to suppress this channel. But in the interim, should something happen to this channel, there is a backup channel. It is called We Woke Now Extended. So I'm going to drop the link here in the comment section. And I encourage you guys, those that are not subscribe to that channel, subscribe to it. Here it is. All right, let's get the subscription on that channel up. And that's what we're going to also stream the Passover. We're gonna stream our feast celebrations over on that channel. And moving forward, the goal also is to each Shabbat service we'll start streaming over there as well. All right. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get started here. Really appreciate you, family. And yes, let's get the subscription up to 40,000. YouTube has been suppressing the numbers. They had me sitting at 39,700 since December, right? Been averaging over anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 subscribers. Worst case scenario was always 1,000 subscribers subscribing to the channel. But suddenly, right when I dropped the road to Savannah, they put a major halt on the channel in terms of making every attempt to suppress the channel, not sending out the notifications, unsubscribing people. I could go right down the list and have the proof that they have done this, right? They're not sending out any alerts. They are not sending out any notifications. They are actually not accurately showing the views on each video. All right. So it is what it is, right? This is their channel, their platform. So they do whatever they want to do. All right. But let's go ahead and get into it. Don't want to let them take away from the lesson that I want to give here. All right. Acts chapter 13, verse 42 through 44. We're going to answer this question here. Did the non-blood descendants of Israel struggle to keep the Shabbat? Did they struggle? Well, let's answer this question because, that's what the church will teach. They will teach that, it's impossible. The Shabbat, hey, that's for Israel, but not for the church, not for the non-blood descendants of Israel. So let's go to Acts chapter 13, verse 42 through 44. Let's see what it says here. And when the Judeans were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought that these words might be preached to them the next Shabbat. You see, Sabbath is the Greek pronunciation of the word Shabbat, right? But we see here, the non-blood descendant of Israel don't appear to be struggling with honoring the Shabbat, because as you see here, they're asking the apostle to teach them on the next Shabbat. And when you study the history, Paul was teaching them for over 2 years on the Shabbat. But yet we are told that, hey, they struggle with honoring the Shabbat. They didn't honor the Shabbat, or they had to, when we get to Acts 15, they was dealing with all the law, statutes, and commandments, when actually they were just dealing with the circumcision. But that's a whole nother discussion. Verse 43. Now, when the congregation was broken up, many of the Judeans and the religious proselytes, wait a minute, religious proselytes, those are converts. When you see religious proselytes, these are converts. Sure doesn't look like the converts had a struggle with honoring the law, statutes, and commandments, because it says religious proselytes. That is someone that's a non-blood descendant of Israel who are now practicing Torah. So it says many of the Judeans, and religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, right? Who, speaking to them, persuaded them to continue in the grace of Yahweh. So wait a minute. They was getting encouraged, but these are converts here. These are proselytes that was encouraging them along with the blood descendants of Israel. But it didn't stop there. Verse 44. And the next Shabbat day came, almost the whole city together. Let me say that. And the next Shabbat day came, almost the whole city together to hear the word of Yahweh. So guess what? We got to give a garbage can to anyone that is teaching, primarily those that are in the church, that, hey, it was a struggle for Israel. I mean, not Israel, but the non-blood descendants of Israel to honor the Shabbat. Garbage can for that. All right. That was pretty easy, right? Easy to knock down. So here's another one. Non-blood descendants connected to Israel are not required to honor the Shabbat. Have you guys heard that one? The non-blood descendants of Israel, don't have to honor the Shabbat. They don't have to honor the commandments. All right. But let's confirm this. The non-blood descendants of Israel that's dwelling among the Israelites that say that they want to embrace the Messiah, say that they want to have a relationship with the Most High, so they don't have to do the things that Israel had to do, even the basic things? Well, Isaiah 56, let's see what this says here. You guys know this passage. Also, the sons of strangers, right? The sons of stranger that joined themselves to Yahweh to serve him and to love the name of Yahweh, to be his servants. Everyone that keep the Shabbat from polluting it and taking hold of my covenant. Now, let me say this again for those that may not understand this, right? When you see the covenant is the 10 commandments. Look it up. The covenant is the 10 commandments. The fourth commandment of the 10 is the Shabbat. And that is dealing with the seventh day Shabbat. That's under the 10. But when we see Shabbat from polluting it, this is dealing with the feast days, because the feast days are Shabbats, right? You could confirm this with Exodus chapter 31. Also Leviticus chapter 23. There's other chapters you can confirm this with. So the feast days are Shabbats. These are the Most High's. These are Yahweh's days. These are his feasts. So we see here the sons of strangers, the non-blood descendants of Israel that joined themselves to Yahweh to serve him, to love the name. In other words, the reputation of Yahweh. Yahweh means he exists. To be his servants. Everyone that keepeth the Shabbat from polluting it and taketh hold of my covenant. Now, when we go to Isaiah, the same passage, chapter 56, verse 6, when we go to the Tanakh, this is how it reads. As for the foreigners who attach themselves to Yahweh, to minister to him, and to love the name Hashem of Yahweh, to be his servants, all who keep the Shabbat and do not profane it, and hold fast to my covenant. Okay? So did the non-blood descendants of Israel struggle with honoring the feast days? This is another question. We just coming out with the haymakers, right? So did the non-blood descendants of Israel struggle with honoring the feast days? All right. Did they struggle with this? We're going to answer this question. All right. We're going to deal with what is the Passover, even though that shouldn't be here. Let me take this question out because we'll get to that here in a second. So let me take that out here so that way when I do this again in the future, everything is in order. All right. So let me take that out. Let me see here. Let me take that out. Let me take that out. Let me make sure that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I took it out. Just making sure we good. Yeah. We took that out. Okay. All right. So did the non-blood descendants of Israel struggle with honoring the feast days? Right? Did the non-blood descendant of Israel struggle with honoring the feast days? If you guys believe that they did, type 1. If you believe that they didn't, type 2. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a poll. Let me do a poll. Let's do a poll. All right. Let's do a poll. Let me do this here right now. Let's put this here. Let's do a poll. All right. Well, that's coming up. Because I want to make sure we get some interaction here. All right. Let's put this poll up. All right. All right. Trying to get this poll up. For some reason, it's taking a little time to come up here. All right. So here we go. Let's see. And I'm going to put this here. All right. Let's see here. Appreciate you guys for getting us over 100 likes. All right. For those that just joined. All right. We're pushing over 200 live views right now. Let's get it over 200. All right. We made it to 100. Let's do 200. All right. So let's put this up here right now. Let's put this poll. All right. Did Did the non-blood descendants of Israel struggle with honoring the feast days? All right, so let's put this here. All right. There we go. You have our first poll here. All right. Want to encourage everyone. Let's go ahead and let's vote here. Let's get the participation. Let's get at least 100 responses here. All right. So let's go ahead and deal with this here. But let's see who answered this. All right. Ivana Thomas says she don't have a clue. Understand. Hey, definitely understand. All right. Definitely understand. Octavia Phillips put 2. So that's no. Real Arsenal Sound. No. Andrea Leggett. No. Tysis, excuse me if I mispronounce your name. No. Sharon. No. David Pickett. No. Diamond Love. No. Ayawa. No. So far, looks like it's unanimous so far. Eric Tinsley. No. Kwaba. I think that they took issue. Okay. So, yes. Victorious Ron. No. Van P. No. Appreciate you, sis. Let's see who else. Simka Imuna. No. Alma Miller. No. Donna Jones. No. Esther Agenor. No. Or excuse me if I mispronounce your last name. My apologies. All right. So yeah. So the majority of you guys said no. And you know how we do here. We have to have scripture to line up. We have to have scripture to line up. And looking at the poll thus far, let's see what the poll says. So far, we have 55 votes, and we have almost 80% stating no, voting no. All right. But let's go ahead and answer this question. Let's see what the scripture says. Now, I know this could be a yes and no question because I believe, and the proof is there, those that have converted, right, that didn't want to let go of their cultures, those are the ones that struggled because they began to modify and change the culture of the Israelites and make it suitable for them, right? Those Greeks, those Romans, when they began to convert over, right? Many of them didn't want to let go of their stuff, right? When you start understanding Constantine and those guys. All right. But nevertheless, let's go off of the scriptures here. Those that are dwelling among Israel, right? The non-blood descendants. Let's see if they struggle here. Okay. So did the non-blood descendants of Israel struggle with honoring the feast days? Well, if we go to Acts chapter 2, right, we could read the entire passage and we see non-blood descendants of Israel here. But notice what we see here in verse 10. Phrygia, Pamphylia, in Egypt, and in the parts of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, of course, Judah, but also it says proselytes. So we see strangers, these are foreigners, and proselytes, those who have converts, those who have embrace the culture of the Israelites, right? So I don't even like to say converted because I don't even like to use that word. From a Hebrew perspective, it means to turn back to. So they're not converts because the Most High did not call us to convert to a religion. Shawab or Shabbat, right? Convert, right? Means to turn back to or turn to. So I don't like to use it in the tense of like it's a religious thing, like the church today, like Christianity and Catholicism. They teach it as if you're converting to a religion. And that's not the intention of the Most High, especially if you study the James letter to the Israelites. Okay. So we see here, they hear, celebrating first fruits. They hear celebrating first fruits. They didn't come to, for what is called today, celebrated in the church today, far as the day of Pentecost, even though Penti 50, right? So they are here to honor a major feast day. They didn't struggle. I don't see anything that says that they were struggling. Okay, so here's another thing, because there is a requirement when it comes to honoring the Passover. There are requirements. And here's one of the requirements. Circumcision is required to honor the Passover. Right? Guess what? Every man, especially a blood descendant of Israel, is required to be circumcised. Now, let me make it clear. Almost sounding like Obama, right? Let me make this clear. All right. Let me make this clear that circumcision doesn't determine whether or not you are an Israelite. Let me say that again. Circumcision does not determine whether or not you are an Israelite. What circumcision is, as when you read up on it, Genesis chapter 17, you will see that circumcision, Abraham, his entire household, blood descendants of him, those within his lineage, and those that was non-blood descendants of Israel, they all had to be circumcised, those that lived in this household. Circumcision is a token. In other words, signs, proof, evidence that Abraham and all the men are embracing the covenant. All right. So circumcision is required for the blood descendants of Israel. It's required. And for the non-blood descendants of Israel that want to honor Passover, honor the feast days and those things, you have to be circumcised. So, but let me give you scripture to confirm this. All right. I'm not going to go into the depths of circumcision. I'm just going to cover a little bit of it, but this existed before Moses. That's why the Messiah said this law existed before it was given, before Moses, before Israel existed. Circumcision is required to honor the Passover. Exodus chapter 12, verse 42 through 44, it says this: it is a night to be much observed unto Yahweh for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of Yahweh to be observed, and all the children of Israel in their generations. See, this is another thing that many don't understand about the Passover, Pesach, right? Israel came out of Egypt while it was still dark outside. Not while it was during the daylight, right? Just like the Messiah, when the Messiah was taken. It was in the evening. It was in the night. All right. So it says here, this is that night of Yahweh to be observed of all the children of Israel and their generations. Verse 43, and Yahweh said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. In other words, the laws, the instructions of the Passover, right? Because you have commandments. The 10 commandments is the covenant. Now, when we start getting into the laws or ordinance or statutes, they are instructions teaching you how to carry out the 10 commandments. So this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof, but every man's servant that is brought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. Then when we skip down to verse 48 and 49, notice what it says here. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee and will keep the Passover to Yahweh, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. This is dealing with Passover. This is not saying that they're taking over Israel's role. This is not saying that they're going to become the high priest and the priest within the temple. No, this is saying that they're going to be able to honor the Passover, the Pesach. But it didn't stop there. One law shall be to him that is homeborn and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. But let's read this from the Tanakh. Let's see what the Tanakh says, how it reads. If a stranger who dwells with you would offer the Passover to Yahweh, all his males must be circumcised. That's the condition. If you want to honor the Passover, whether you blood descended or not, you have to be circumcised. Then he shall be admitted to offer it. He shall then be as a citizen of the country, but no uncircumcised person may eat of it. Verse 49, there shall be one law for the citizens and for the strangers who dwell among you. And all the Israelites did so as Yahweh had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. All right, so we cleared that up. We cleared that up. So let's go to the next thing, the Passover. Man, if I really believe if the Passover was truly taught correctly, many of our brothers and sisters that are in Christianity, that are in the church, I believe that they would honor Passover if they really understood what Passover is. See, many of them don't even understand the Holy Communion per se. That is actually, it comes from the Passover. When they say the Last Supper, well, guess what? The Last Supper is the Passover. That's them honoring Passover. That's the Passover. When the Messiah said, do this in remembrance of me, he's saying when you do the Passover, when you honor Passover, do it in remembrance of him laying down his life. All right. So what is the Passover? What does it mean? Well, let's go to the Hebrew word, Pasach. That's the ancient Hebrew word, Pasach. Not Pesach. There was no A sounds in ancient Hebrew, Pasach. All right. Now notice what you see here. Here it is, Pasach. This is what the word means, right? It means to hop. It means skip over or to spare. It means to hesitate. It means to halt. It also means to leap. In other words, leap over. Aren't you guys glad? Are you guys glad that the Most High passed over you, did not bring you up under judgment, did not allow you to transition from this life and your house was not in order? When you were at the height of being disobedient, when you are at the height of being out there in that world, whether it's drinking, whether it's smoking, whether what other things, that mischievous things that you were doing, that the Most High did not call you back during that time. In other words, when I say call you back, transition you at that time. That's another example of the Pasach, that the Most High allowed his judgment to skip over you. He allowed his judgment to halt over you. In many cases, he allowed his judgment to be hesitate. That hesitation allowed you to get it right, to halt, to leap. That's what the Pasach means. When you follow his instructions, this is what's going to happen. But in our ignorance, the Most High covered us. In many cases, because someone took the time out to pray for us. Someone interceded for us. And the Most High, because of their consistency, said, I'm going to honor your prayer for that person that interceded for you by not allowing you die in the height of your ignorance. Come on, family. Come on, family. We all experienced this Pasach, even though we didn't have no clue about it. We experienced it. All right. So each ancient Hebrew letter is going to give a key understanding to the Passover. So let's break it down real quick. This first letter is the Pa. It means mouth. It means mind. It means command. It means instructions. These are some of the words that you see that this word Pa transliterates to. So as you see here, mouth, instructions, command, mind, word. So when Paul says, let this mind be in you, that is in Christ Jesus, or Yahushua HaMashiach, he is saying, let the words that come out of your mouth be in alignment with the word, the living word. So this letter looks like the side profile of a mouth. Because if you put a chin here, because I'm an artist, right? This is the top lip, right? Then you can put a nose here, right? The eyes, all right, the ears and all that other stuff. This the side profile of a mouth. Then the next letter we have what is the Samak, which means thorn, right? It means thorn. It means to support, lean on, take hold. Lastly, we have the Kath, right? Means wall, means divide. So why is this important? If we, like the Messiah said when he was in his wilderness experience, the Madabar, he said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yah. He was quoting Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 3, right? Man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yah, so a man liveth. That's the law, statutes, and commandments. The law, statutes, and commandments is the word of Yah, the instructions from Yah. So if we follow his words, his instructions, his command, we allow that to become our, as we see here, support system and also our protector. Because when you think of thorns on a rose, they're there to protect as well. But our support system. And then guess what it's going to do? It's going to cause a divide. Because when you understand these plagues, it caused a separation of who is Israel and those who are not Israel, those that belong to the Most High and those that do not belong to the Most High. See how we just that quick, we defined this word, gave clarity to the word Passover or Pasach. Just that quick. Very simple, family. So let's continue here. Let's continue. All right. What is the Passover? Well, I explained it to you, right? I gave you the definition, but let's explain it real brief. A very brief description. The Passover or Pasach involves both the judgment and deliverance of Yah. The Passover or Pasach is one of the most significant days in Israel's history. It is so significant that Hamashiach and his disciples honored this historical bookmark in the history of Israel. So guess what? I already answered the question, but did the Hebrew Israelite Messiah honor the Passover? Absolutely. Luke chapter 4, verse 15 to 16, he was raised. He was to honor the Passover. Joseph, Mary, they honored Passover. Verse 15, and he taught in their synagogue, Quahal, being glorified, Kabod of all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Shabbat day and stood up to read. So we see that he honored the customs. He honored the feast days. Verse 41. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of what? The Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. Now we already proved When you go to John chapter 12, we taught this earlier. John chapter 12, we see that the Messiah, they're doing what? Preparing to honor the feast and also honoring the feast. But there we see what the church tried to change to being, excuse me 1 second, let me clear my throat. Sorry about that, I had to clear my throat. But the church teach Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday is an absolute lie. Actually, it's the Shabbat, but it's not a Palm Sunday. There's no such thing as a Palm Shabbat. What they were celebrating, that Shabbat, they were selecting the lamb on the Shabbat. That was a Shabbat. All right. But again, they were not celebrating or honoring Palm Shabbat or Palm Sunday. They weren't doing none of those things. They were prepared to what? Honor the feast. Okay, so then Hamashiach and his disciples honored the Passover. Well, I answered the question, but I'm going to give scripture. Matthew 26, verse 17 and 18. Now, the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahushua, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover, Pasach? And he said, go into the city to such a man, and I will say unto him, the master saith, my time is at hand. I will keep Shamar, the Passover, Pasach, at thy house with my disciples, Lamad. So they honored Passover together. Here's the next question. Did Apostle Paul honor the Passover? Did Apostle Paul honor the Passover? Did Apostle Paul honor the Passover? Well, guess what, family? We're going to answer this question. Acts chapter 18, verse 21. Let's see what Acts chapter 18, verse 21 says. This is Apostle Paul's words. But bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep Shamar, this feast, Chag, that cometh in Jerusalem. But I will return again unto you, if Allahayim will. In other words, if it's his will. And he sailed from Ephesus. So Apostle Paul is pressing to honor the feast. But guess what? We got to ask the question. Did the early so-called church, we're just going to use the word church just for the sake of conversation, because we know that so many use this word, even though this word is not a biblical word. This word is a word of confusion. Christianity or Catholicism did not use this word until the 4th century, right? Just like the word Christian or Christianity, rather. That's actually a 9th, 10th century word, right? But anyway, I'm not getting into all of that. But let's go ahead and ask this next question. Let me drop this question. Let me close out this poll here and appreciate everyone for your participation in this poll. So let's see if we could get more participation. Let me ask this question. All right. Let's do another poll. Did the early church honor the Passover? All right. I put another poll here. All right. Let's see if we could get at least 100 votes here participating with this poll here. All right. So let's see what we have here. All right. Right now, let's see if we have, let's see where we are. All right. We got 5 votes. Come on, family. Let's get at least 100 votes. We got more than enough people to be able to get at least 100 votes here. Whether you know it or not, I should have put an extra one there. Like, I don't know, but we're going to deal with it. Okay. Someone said we are not getting the polling over here. Okay. That's probably why. I'm not sure. It's a YouTube thing. Sorry. Apologies, Victor Weekly. Apologies. All right. So, but that's the question. Did the early so-called church honor Passover? All right. Did they honor Passover? All right. The extended channel doesn't have the poll. Okay. I have to work that out because I can't be logged in on both. Matter of fact, maybe the next time we do a live, I have two different browsers going on. All right. So if those that are on We Woke Now extended channel, I'll make sure the next time we go live, I'll have the poll. I have two browsers open so that way we can manage both over there and over to on the main channel. All right. So my apologies. I didn't think about that of using two separate browsers. All right. But so far, 86% says yes. 86% says yes, while 16% says no. All right. So we're going to answer this question. We are going to answer this question. What was the ethnicity of the assembly of Corinth? That's a good question, right? But let's deal with Corinth. Let's deal with Paul's letter to the assembly of Corinth. Let's see what they say. Also, we're going to answer the question, did they need a blood sacrifice? Because, you know, that's what many within the church will come up with this really try to get you with this gotcha talking point or question. Well, hey, if you're saying that you honor the law, statutes, and commandments, where's your sacrifice? Come on, family. Then you're going to have to ask Paul the same question. Because let's answer this question. Did they need a blood sacrifice? Well, let me show you here. 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7 and 8. Notice here, starting at verse 7, purge out therefore the old leaven. Wait a minute, old leaven, that's dealing with the feast of the unleavened bread. So Apostle Paul is teaching the feast of the unleavened bread, and he's teaching the Passover. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Mashiach, our Passover, in other words, the Passover lamb, the sacrifice, as it says here, our Passover is sacrificed for us. But notice what it says in verse 8. Therefore, let us keep Shamar, the feast, Chag, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice, because there's a lot of people that's honoring these feast days that have malice in their heart, have a lot of hatred in their heart. But not with leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. But notice what he says, therefore let us keep the feast. So Apostle Paul taught this assembly of Corinth to honor the feast days. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. We got to give a garbage can. We got to bring the garbage can out. We forgot to bring the garbage can out. I'm going to have to blame Jay Highstyle. I haven't blamed Jay Highstyle in a while. I got to blame Jay Highstyle for, having me for me forgetting about the garbage can. We got to bring the garbage can out. Let me bring the garbage can out. We're going to have to give it a 3-piece too. We got to give it a 3-piece. Couple of side orders. I'll give it a couple of sides. Of course, we don't want them to eat in our house. We want them to take their order to go. So let's give them their order to go. Do customer service over here. All right. All right. That's how we do customer service over here. Toss it out. Okay. All right. So not only did Apostle Paul teach the importance of honoring Passover but he also taught the celebration of the feast of the unleavened bread. Man, I got to spell check my stuff here. I'm trying to correct it on the fly as I'm reading here. I'm like, man, I must have been half asleep writing some of my commentary here. So understand, grasp the magnitude of what Yah is doing or was doing during this incredible event, the Passover. Yah want to make sure that Israel understand that he have a plan to save and deliver his people, all of us. Yah have a plan to judge the evil and the brutal Egyptians, those that have us in this captivity, while protecting his people, every last one of them. Yah have a plan. He has a plan to show the importance of the blood of the Passover lamb. Yah have a plan. He has a plan. He has a plan for the forgiveness of our sins, of bending, twisting, transgressing his word, his voice, every word that came out of his mouth. Every sin, Hamashiach would be willing to take upon himself. So now when we go to Exodus chapter 12, verse 1 and 2, right? Notice what it says here. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Right? Because Egypt celebrated their New Year's, which is the equinox, the spring equinox. The Babylonians, the spring equinox. The Romans, the spring equinox. The Greeks, the spring equinox. The Assyrians, the spring equinox. That was their New Year's. But the Most High said that's not going to be the New Year's for Israel. Right? This is where you get into the word Chadash. You have Quadash, which means holy, but then you have Chadash, which means months, renew. So the first new moon after the spring equinox is Israel's first month. And Moses did not use any names for months. He said the first month, the second month, the third month, the fourth month, the fifth month, the sixth month, the seventh month, the eighth month, the ninth month. You get it. Abib is not the name of a month. It is the season. The season. It's the season, the harvest, the ripe harvest. It's the season. And that lines up the ripe grain when the grain is ripe to be pulled. That lines right up with Israel being the Passover taking place. But Abib is a season, not the name of a month. All right, anyway. So the Passover, as I pointed out, is one of the most significant events in Israel's histories, so significant that Yahweh used it to create a calendar specifically for Israel. So the Passover is an event that is different from all other events in Israel's history. It marked the very night when Yah delivered his people. So here's another question, another comment we hear. I don't have to honor the Passover and the feast days because there's no temple and we are not in our own land. Have you guys heard that one before? Have you heard that one before, guys? We don't have to honor the Passover. See, these are coming from some of our brothers and sisters that's in this awakening. We don't have to honor the Passover and the feast days because there's no temple. And we are not in our own land. So we're going to have to answer this question. And I'm going to put an X on it, showing that that's completely incorrect. You know why? Because the Passover occurred in Egypt. Wait a minute. What just happened? What did you just say, Pastor? Yeah, let me repeat myself. The first Passover occurred in Egypt. What? Let me say it one more time. The initial Passover occurred in Egypt. What? The second Passover occurred in the wilderness, Madabar.
What?
Israel got in trouble. That generation could not see the promised land. So for over 38 years, all the feast days were honored in the wilderness.
What?
All right. So I'm going to say that again, family. I'm going to say that again. Give you a dose of truth. All the feast days were honored outside the temple, outside of Jerusalem, outside of Israel initially, before they had all these things. All right. Okay. Now, let's go to Exodus chapter 5, verse 1 and 3. Why is this important? Why is this important? Let me show you here. Let me read it to you. Exodus chapter 5, verse 1 through 3. And afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, thus saith Yahweh Elohim of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. Whoa, wait a minute. What did I just read here? What did I just read here? Let me read it again. Let me read it again. Let me read it again. I hope you guys caught this. Some of you guys probably saying this.
What?
Because this is not the Passover. That didn't exist yet. It says, and afterward, Moses and Aharon went in and told Pharaoh, thus saith Yahweh Elohim of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. And this is the word is spelled backwards. For some reason, my fonts came in backwards, as you see here. It's not Rabadam. It's actually Madabar is backwards here. Sometimes it does that when I'm pulling these words in and the actual Hebrew in to these presentations. All right. So again, let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness.
What?
In slow motion. It's been a while since I did slow motion, right? With slow-mo with you guys. Let's do it in slow motion. Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness. For the people in the back.
What?
All right. Been a while since I did slow-mo. All right. Verse 2. And Pharaoh said, who is Yahweh, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? Now, Pharaoh talking smack now. He's saying, who is Yahweh? Who is he that exists, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? Because Pharaoh was a god and treated as a deity, considered a deity among his people. That's why you have these different pyramids for each pharaoh from the different dynasties. That's why Pharaoh, like, wait a minute, that's beneath me. He viewed himself as being equal to Yahweh. Pharaoh said, who is Yahweh? Who is he that exists, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Yahweh. I know not Yahweh. Wait a minute. This knocks down the Kemet community, right? When they say that Israel worshiped the Yah from the Egyptians. But we see here Pharaoh, like, hey, I don't know who Yah is. I know not Yahweh, neither will I let Israel go. Notice what he says in verse 3. And they said, the Alahayim of the Hebrews hath met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days journey into the desert and sacrifice unto Yahweh, our Alahayim, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword. So we got some explaining to do. We have some explaining to do. But let's go to verse 4 and 5. This is what it says. And the king of Egypt said unto them, wherefore do ye, Moses, Mashah, and Aharon, let the people from their works get you unto your burdens? Tell them, get to work. You think we're going to let the people stop working? Get to work. And Pharaoh said, behold, the people of the land now are many, and ye make them rest. We see Shabbat from their burdens. So the Pharaoh did not want Israel to honor the Shabbat. When you go to this passage in ancient Hebrew, you'll see Shabbat. So Israel was trying to honor the Shabbat even in Egypt, and Pharaoh would not allow them to honor the Shabbat. We see it right here. We see it right here. Israel was trying to honor the Shabbat, but Pharaoh would not allow them to honor the Shabbat. The feast days, they are Shabbats. So Yahweh instructed Moses and Aaron to allow the Israelites to go into the wilderness to honor him by a feast. So what was the feast? We know it was not the Passover. We know it wasn't the feast of the unleavened bread, because those didn't exist yet. Now we got a question. We got a serious question that we have to answer now. What is the feast day that they were trying to answer? I mean, it's not answer, but honor. What is the feast day that the Israelites are pressing to honor? That's a serious question. What is the feast day that the Israelites are trying to honor? We have to answer this question. And guess what? We are going to answer this question. We are going to answer this question. Let's go ahead and let's get it going. All right. Let's go to this pseudo-graphical or graphical, excuse me for butchering the word. But let's go to this, the book of Jubilees, right? Chapter 16, verse 19 through 21. Let's see what it says. Let's say what this says. Jubilees, chapter 16, verse 19 through 21. Right? Let's see what Jubilees says. And we went our way, and we announced to Sarah all that we had told him. And they both rejoiced exceeding great joy. And he built there an altar to Yahweh, who had delivered him and who was making him rejoice in the land of his sojourning. And he celebrated a festival of joy in this month, 7 days, near the altar which he had built at the well, right, Ba'ar of the oath, Shabbai or Shabbai. Okay. And he built booths, Sakath, for himself and for his servants on this festival. And he was the first to celebrate the feast, Chag of Tabernacles, Sakath or Sakawath. This is backwards here, should be Chag, right? So wait a minute. the book of Jubilees is saying that Abraham was the first to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles. This is before Israel existed. So it says, and he was the first to celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles on the earth. So what is the well of oath? What is the well of the oath? Why is the well of oaths important? Why? Because we're going to confirm this in scripture where the well of oaths is. Was Abraham the first to honor the Feast of Tabernacle? That's a great question. But let's see where it's at. Genesis chapter 21, verse 30 and 31. Notice what we see here. And he said, for these 7 ewe lambs, shalt thou take my hand, that they may be a witness unto me, that I have digged this well? Wherefore he called this place Beersheba. So Beersheba, Ba'ar Shabai, or Ba'ar Shabai, because there they swear both of them. So the first Feast of Tabernacle was done by Abraham in Beersheba. Oh my gosh, wait a minute. So let's go to the Eastern Bible Dictionary of Beersheba. Let's see what it says about Beersheba. It says well of the oath, or well of 7, a well dug by Abraham. And so named because he and Abimelech here entered into a compact. On reopening it, Isaac gave it the same name. And we see scriptures here. It was a favorite place of abode of both of these patriarchs. So we see that Abraham dwelt in this place. So you know he had to do some sacrifices here. And we see his son Isaac is in the same place. When you study Jacob, you see a history of this, right? So Abraham named the place where the covenant was sealed Beersheba, right? The Hebrew dictionary definition of Beersheba says this: well of an oath. Beersheba, just confirm what we read with the Eastern Bible Dictionary, right? When we go to Beer, right, or Ba'ar, it means to dig, engrave, to explain, declare, plain, make plainly. So when we see the Hebrew definition of Sheba, this is just giving you more of an in-depth definition of this. Sheba or Shaba, y'all see Shaba or Shabai, it says to be complete, repeating a declaration 7 times, charged by an oath with an oath, take an oath. So Abraham was memorializing his commitment by naming the place where the commitment was made. Every time he thought or heard of the place Beersheba, he would remember his commitment and renew it before Yahweh. Abraham's son Isaac reopened and rededicated this place. And when we go to Genesis chapter 26, starting at verse 30, we confirm this. And he made them a feast, and they did eat and drink, and they rose up betimes in the morning and swear one to another. And Abraham, and here's that swear, Shabai, or some would say Shabbat or Shabai, and Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servant came and told him concerning the well which they had digged. And there we see that word Ba'ar. And said unto him, we have found water. Verse 33. And he called it Sheba or Sheba, right? Or Shabai. Therefore, the name of the city Beersheba, Ba'ar Shabai, or Ba'ar Shabai, unto this day, Beersheba. So Abraham's grandson Jacob went to this place as well. Genesis 28, verse 10 and 11. So we see this is a very special place. Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran, and he lighted up a certain place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows. So he used the stones as his pillow. He used that and laid his woolly hair, right, his afro or locks, and made a stone into a pillow and laid down in that place to sleep. So this is pretty much giving you an illustration here. We see Beersheba at the top, right? We see Beersheba at the top, right? So when we look at here, we see Beersheba. This is giving you a path here. Just give you an illustration of what we just read. Beersheba, Haran. All right. Okay. So Jacob returned to Beersheba en route to Egypt. Genesis 46, verse 1 through 4. Notice what it says. And Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices unto Elohim of his father Isaac. Wait a minute. So we know that Jubilee says that Abraham was the first to have a feast to honor the Feast of Tabernacle. But then we see that his son was there. We see his grandson is there. And what is Jacob offering? What is Israel offering here? They're offering sacrifices. They're offering sacrifices. It says, and offer sacrifices unto Elohim of his father Isaac, the Most High of his father Isaac. And Elohim spake unto Israel in the vision of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here am I. And he said, I am Elohim, the Elohim of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again. And Joseph shall put his hand upon thine eyes. So we see here the Most High made a promise to him in this place. So the feast day, the tabernacle, the Feast of Booths, the Feast of Booths. So we just answered another major question here. The feast days existed before. They were already in existence. A feast, the tabernacles already existed. Israel was already trying to honor the Feast of Tabernacles. They were already trying to honor the Feast of Booths. They were already desiring to honor the Shabbat. And Pharaoh did everything that he could to stop them from honoring the Shabbat. Come on, family. Can't make it any plainer than this. Can't make it any plainer than this. Yeah, black to my roots, the feast of Yahweh, all the feasts are Yahweh's. When you read Leviticus chapter 23, it makes it clear all these feast days, they are feasts of Yahweh. All right, just wanted to give clarity because I see your question here. Yes, these are the Most High's feasts. All right, so Leviticus chapter 23, you can read that as well, and that gives you confirmation. All right, so we just proved that Abraham was honoring tabernacles. That means Isaac honored tabernacles. That means Jacob honored tabernacles. And of course, Israel, that's what their desire was, to honor tabernacles. So apparently with this new Pharaoh in place versus the old, I'm sure the old Pharaoh allowed them to honor tabernacles, but the new Pharaoh that took over said, nah, that ain't happening. Put a halt to all of that. All right, family. So we got one more question we're going to answer here. Then I'll drop the link inside the comment section. Did Abraham become a Hebrew by crossing over into the land of Canaan? Right? The ancient Hebrew pronunciation of this, Ibarya. In the Israeli, many would say Ibri or Ivri, right? But Ibri, right? So did Abraham become a Hebrew by crossing over into the land of Canaan? This is another one I have to answer the question of, because when people teach this, right, and say this, they make it as if being a Hebrew Israelite is a fraternity, a secret society. Like Abraham, this is his last part of his initiation, so he became a Hebrew when he crossed over. That is absolutely incorrect. He didn't become a Hebrew, he was born one. Everyone that's under the lineage of Eber or Ibar are Hebrews. Yes, Esau was a Hebrew. Yes, Isaac was a Hebrew. Not Isaac, but Ishmael. All right. Let's get proof here. Exodus chapter 12, verse 23. It says here, for Yahweh will pass through Ibar to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts, Yahweh will pass over Pasak, the door, Pathak, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your house to smite you. So Yahweh will pass through, right? And when we go back here, Yahweh will pass through Ibar, okay? So pass through is also the name of the father of the Hebrews, Ibar. Let's go to Genesis chapter 10, verse 25. His name means Passover. So, and unto Eber, Ibar, were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name Joktan. And when we understand Eber, he lived during the time of Nimrod, right? And he, as you can see, chose, by the way, when we look at his sons, that he chose not to go the way of Nimrod. But anyway, the Hebrew definition of Eber or Ibar, name of two patriarchs. But notice what it says here, the region beyond. All right, the region beyond. The Eastern Bible Dictionary of Eber, notice what it says here. The third post-Diluvian patriarch after Shem. He is regarded as the founder of the Hebrew race. He is regarded as the founder of the Hebrew race. Even though I don't like to use that term race, right? That's a 17th, 18th century construct. But anyway, Josephus gives some comments about Eber. He says this, and his son was Heber or Eber or Ibar, from whom they originally called the Jews Hebrews, or I don't like to get into all of that, but anyway, I'm not gonna get into the particulars as far as with the names. I like to say Judah. I don't like to use the word Jew, but anyway, from whom they originally called Israel Hebrews. That's what the proper context. But anyway, Heber begat Jotan and Phaleg. He was called Phaleg because he was born at the dispersion of the nations to their several countries. For Phaleg among the Hebrews signifies division. I will now treat of the Hebrews. The son Phaleg, whose father was Heber, was Ragu, whose son was Serug, to whom was born Nahor. His son was Terah. All these are Hebrews, who was the father of Abraham, who was accordingly was the 10th, in other words, generation from Noah. Right, so Abraham, Hebrew, Noah, Hebrew, and was born in the 292nd year. All right, so Eber comes from the primitive root word that means pass through. The Hebrew word ibar also means crossover. So when we go to the primitive root word, notice what it says, ibar, to crossover, alienate, alter, beyond, bring over, bring through, carry over, okay? Come, overcome, come on, come over, deliver, pass. So many teach that Abraham did not become a Hebrew until he crossed over, and that's incorrect. Genesis 14 and 13, right? And this is where many take out of context. And there came one that had escaped and told Abraham, the Hebrew, come on, family. He did not become a Hebrew. So the Hebrew definition of Abram, right? Here we go. High father, exalted father. All right. So we see that he is considered to be a patriarch. Okay. So Abram means high father. Here's the definition of high father, right? Let's go to the dictionary.com. Let's see what it says here. High father. It says a respected, high-ranking male elder, leader, a patriarch, a forefather, a grandfather. So he is a leader. He is a patriarch. So Abraham was a forefather, a patriarch, right? So we see that Abraham's name was changed. It went from Abaram to, which, I'm not going to break down each letter. So it's Abaram is his initial name, or some would say Abram. But his name was changed when we would go to Genesis chapter 17, verse 5. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram. By thy name shall be called Abraham, Ibar Raham, or Ibarham, right? Ibarham, or Abar Raham. For a father of many nations have I made thee. All right. So, but thy name, Sham, shall be Abraham, right? Ibar Raham. Okay. And we see that here. Father of a multitude. Okay. So this is what the Most High did. He changed his name. We stretched it out. So he added a ha. Ha, fifth letter of the Hebrew Aleph Bayath, which means reveal. Right? It means to reveal. So we stretch this out. We also, at the same time, debunk the Kemet community. And we have some among this awakening that try to say Abraham is both Shemitic and Hamitic because of his name, Ibar Ham. Family. Ham's actual name is Ham, not Ham, not Ham, is Ham. There's a kath there in the Israeli language, chet, not a ha. So just this alone will completely knock down that argument. Abraham wasn't mixed with the Hamitic people. Ibar Ham, but we see here, not Ibar Ham. All right. So I just want to make sure we understand that. Okay. Right. These are just giving you the meaning of the letters, not going into all of this right now. And just to my point, you see the Hebrew definition of Ham. Right. Let's see how it's pronounced here. Right. Notice how they have it here. Now, of course, they have a Ham here, which is off. Right. But if we go to the ancient Hebrew, you'll see a Ka here. Right. They, many, they, them, these, they. Right. This is the portion of Abraham's name. Right. We see him, Abraham. Right. That's what it's trying to say it's pronounced. But anyway, so Ham means they, them, many in this text. Ham, not Ham, but Ham means they, them, many. Right. So the meaning of Abram, right? Abaram is high father. That name was changed to Ibarham or Ibaraham which means the father of them. Who's the them? The father of them, right? He's the father of them. The Ishmaelites, he's the father of them. The descendants of Isaac, he's the father of them. The Israelites, he's the father of course, the Edomites. He's the father of all those that came through his lineage. He's a patriarch. So who is Abraham the father of? The key is he is the father of the promised seed. Who is the promised seed? Isaac, the promised seed. And through Isaac, the blessing went to Jacob. So this experience with Yah is a turning point in Abraham's life because the promised seed was soon to be born through Sarah. Yah gave Abram's name an upgrade to remind him of this great experience, his great call, and the covenant. So Abraham was also given assurance from Yah that he will fulfill his promise. Right? So again, the Hebrew word, definition of the Hebrew word Hebrew, we see here, Ibar, descendants of who? Eber, which means one from beyond. So Abraham did not become a Hebrew by crossing over. He was born one. Genesis 14:13, wrapping this up. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram, the Hebrew. The Hebrew, Abraham, the Hebrew. Okay. All right. Let me make sure this is not double. All right, here it is. Verse 23. For Yahweh will pass through Ibar to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth blood upon the lintel. All right, we already covered this. But again, Yah will pass over. In other words, not allow death to come to the household of his people who are protected by the blood. He was going to halt the judgment. He was going to allow the judgment to hop over their homes if they had the token, the sign, which is the blood of the Lamb. And there you have it, family. We covered a lot here. We covered a lot here. We covered a lot. So I'm going to drop this link here. All right. I know we went through a lot here. We dropped a lot here. All right. Let me drop this here. All right. We covered a lot here, family. We covered a lot. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and open things up here. So Abraham did not become a Hebrew. Let me say that again. He did not become a Hebrew. He was already a Hebrew. All right. Let me say that again. Abraham did not become a Hebrew. He was born one. All right. I'll say it one more time. Abraham, he was a patriarch among the Hebrews, but he is not the father of all the Hebrews. The father of all the Hebrews is Eber or Ibar, even though Abraham was a patriarch. All right. So let's see. I got my brother Yaquaba here. All right. Let me bring him on in.
Shalom, Pastor.
How you doing, my brother?
Doing all right. I just have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Okay, you remember when you said Ibar Yah, the Hebrew?
Yeah.
And I was doing some studies on how they call dust in the beginning, and I think it was Bar Shayath chapter 2 when Yah he was getting ready to say again that he made man, and he said that he made him from the fear. And then I looked up fear and I didn't see it, but in one place, like where it said in the beginning. And then I went to another verse where it was talking about the father named Ophir. And I wanted to know, like, when you see Abraham's name, when you see Abar right there, the same way that they why did they have the ayan in one place, and then in the other place they had the Are
they saying with Ibar versus Eber versus Abraham versus Abraham's name been with the Alap versus a Ayan with Eber. Is that what your question is?
Yes, sir. Like, okay, when you look it up in the where they put the Israeli letters instead of putting the ancient letters.
What scripture are you referring to? I'm just
Parashah chapter 2.
With chapter
When
2, I'm
said,
at chapter 2.
when he said and Yah formed man, formed Adam, man, Afir from the dust.
All right, let me pull it up here. Let me look at it. All right.
Here's another question I have while you looking that up.
I'm looking at the verse right now. I'm trying to see where.
When he said dust, when Yahweh formed man of the dust.
Okay.
And he breathed
So I'm
into
looking
his.
at it here. I fear, or I par. I see the ayan, and the Israeli will be the pay or the pa, and I see the ra'ash or the resh, right? So what? So I'm still trying to understand your question though.
Okay, with that one they have the ayan there. Now, if you look up Ophir, it still can mean dust. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Because right there they have it there in the place of dust. And then when you look in like with Abraham's name, so they could interchange is the ayan interchangeable with the ah?
Well, it just depends on how it's written out. So that's why I'm kind of lost. I'm trying to understand. So you trying to your question is, why does Abraham name start with an ayan versus alap versus an ayan?
Yes, sir. Because when you look at how they translate dust, they use different letters. Like when they say Ophir, I think it gives you a deeper understanding of the what kind of dust. And then it says gold and silver. And then when you look in Barashayah chapter 2, it just says dust. You see
Yeah, I
what I'm
understand
saying?
where you're getting at, but I think that when we looking at Abraham's name, when we start going to the root of his name, let me go back here. I think I pulled it up here. I was breaking down his name here because I think that's I see where you are with the connection of when we look at that word I fear or apar, in when we're looking at at the scriptures here at Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. Okay, but let me go to here again. Let me see. All right, so is this your question right here? The right here with his name.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And are you looking at the short form of his name as well?
Yes, sir.
Is
Like
that
when
your
you see
question?
it, yes, sir. When you see it say Ibar, could it mean that Abraham was named with Abraham, Abram, something like that? What you was saying, like it sounded
Oh,
like it was,
are you trying to see if it's connected to Ibar as far as Eber's name?
yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, see, they sound similar, Ibar versus Abar, but I really can't uh really tell you definitively if that's the intent, right? Because it sounds similar, but of course he's using uh two different letters, one Hebrew Ibar versus Ibar, right? Ion still make a similar sound, but they're spelled a little different. So I really can't give you a definitive answer for that. Why they would use? Why did his father Terah choose to use a alap versus a ion? I really
And
can't answer that question.
that's what's been tripping me up. Like when I've been trying to read the Bible verses, I've been noticing that that like what I was telling you about afar in Ifar, it was showing it means dust, and then when you look it up, when you look up Ophir's name, it still says dust. You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah, but
it
see,
says
we see here the key is the first two letters in Abraham's name, it means father.
Oh, okay.
Right? You see here, Ab, right?
Yes, sir.
So we see now this is in the Israeli language, which you see here. So this is a Shavah. So you won't pronounce the Shavah. So to be Ab Ram, right? So, but again, this right here, you'll see if these were two separate words and we didn't pronounce it in ancient Hebrew because we see Ab here, it'll be Abba, and we know Abba means father.
Yes, sir.
So his name, Abram, actually means exalted father.
Okay. But that's what's been tripping me up, especially with Abar, with his name, they have Ibaria, but they say that with ancient Hebrew, the vowels, you're not supposed to pronounce those at the end. So it's just supposed to be like Abaria, Abaria, something like that, Abar. And that's why I get tripped up, because I'm like, how can you pronounce a Yah without pronouncing the letter? And then at some words they say, let's say like let me see, Amaya. So saying my mother, you can't pronounce the Yah, but how can they know if you saying my, if you can't put Yah at the end?
Well, again, that's where, unfortunately, when we start really studying the ancient Hebrew versus the Israeli language, a lot of when you like, I have a source called the Shemitic and I may have to do a teaching on that, but a lot of the assumptions that you see was taken from, according to that source, from the Babylonians dialect, far as dropping the and all that other stuff, so again, that's that, I can't really fully give you the full answer why, but I do know when people touched our language, they began to try to make the language more conducive to them to be able to pronounce these words. When you start getting into the Greeks didn't have certain letters, like they didn't have the ion, right? So they used it as a vowel on their end, and we see the influence of that to where so we see vowel letters inside the Israeli language. Now the ion is now silent. So now you're pronouncing, instead of the ancient letter pronunciation of it, you're pronouncing the actual vowel point that was assigned to it.
Yes, sir. But that's the only question I had, and that's why I keep tripping up at it. It's like confusing to me, because I'm trying to figure out what are they trying to do. Like, if they saying that the letters come from the German letters, and are they trying to get us to sound out the German letters like they doing in England when they say you got to speak English properly? Are they trying to do that with the Abar?
When we really look at the intention, when we start looking at the Israeli language, right? When you start looking at the Nakud, the marks, when we deal with the word accent, those marks are there to pronounce words a certain way with a certain accent. So when you start looking at, for example, we see the va here. I see someone spelling Abraham, right? They said they see it in the Sefer, but in ancient Hebrew didn't have a va sound, but that's a Germanic influence there.
I heard them saying they put two Y's together to make a U, but that don't
see
make sense.
That's another thing there, right? There was no U sounds in ancient Hebrew, but even then, everyone would tell you that Israel did not write out the vowels, right? So why all of a sudden now suddenly when it comes to the to the letter Y in the Israeli va, why now all of a sudden that'll be supposed to be two U's put together?
Right.
But yet we're being that's
if the word means what it means, then why
yeah, so I don't entertain it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't entertain. I don't even waste any thoughts with it, because I have plenty of sources that makes it clear that the Yemenites don't have a va in there, or that letter is not used as a vowel letter. It's pronounced wa. Other Shemitic languages, before they were interpolated by the Greeks, they were not using what is called the matrix lectionis, which is vowel letters. Versus,
I'm not trying to throw no shade at nobody. I'm just saying, like, it don't make sense to me. Like, when we say her, that means her, right? But if they can say it one way at one time, why they won't just keep saying it? Like if I say ha Adam af, why do I have to change it and say it don't never change right there? But when they get to Yahweh, they change it to Yahweh. I don't like. I'm not trying to speak
Yeah,
down on it. I know it's
yeah.
his name.
Again, that's when we get into interpolation. You know,
So
people
I don't.
inserting their.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have no problem with saying Yahweh. I mean, I love Yah's name.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I do because I know the ancient Hebrew, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know his ancient name. So for me, if someone else says it, I'm not going to knock them. But for me, I'm not. I say Yahweh. But again, for me, I wouldn't worry about that. You studying the language, you know what the truth is. For me, that's not anything to really. It's really not to me, it's not a deal breaker right now. Many people are learning, but when we really start dealing with the overall language, right now, truth be told, many are learning the language is still in sin. You know what I mean? So we still got all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But again, there was no O sounds, there was no oo sounds, there was none of that inside ancient Hebrew. So that's where we start getting into interpolation from different communities, different cultures. And like I said, I taught that a while ago. But again, that's something that I'm not going to, I'm not just really don't want to get too deep on, because really we were, that's kind of getting away from what we were, discussing tonight.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I just saw the correlation. I thought I saw a correlation between Eber and Abraham's name, and I just want to know.
Yeah. So, like I said, when you start looking at the first letter, the letters have meaning. The ion means watch, right? It means to watch. The alat means to teach. It means it means leadership. It means authority. So I really can't go into the full details of saying why Terah chose to name Abraham with that spell. I really can't. I mean, that to me, that's something that we just cannot give a definitive answer for.
Yes, sir. All right, there, Pastor. I'm gonna be listening in the background. Finish listening.
All right. Hey, appreciate it. Thank you for the love and support. Appreciate the support over the years. Really appreciate you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
All right. Shalom.
Shalom.
All right. The Bible and me. Peace and blessings to you.
Peace and blessing, Pastor. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
I'm good. Concerning the Passover. When the Bible says in Exodus 12, on the 14th day, that day would be what day today?
Well, when we calculated, so I don't have it in front of me, but what you would normally do, let's just say, let me see if I could put it up. Let me just see if I could calculate it real quick. Bear with me 1 second. All right, let me see. New moon 2023. All right, so the new moon. All right, 21st. So let's see here. Bear with me as I do my calculation here. Let me put my calendar up here.
What is the name of the calendar you're using?
Well, I'm taking the ancient, taking what we're discussing, right? And even though I'm using the Gregorian calendar to do my dates, but actually I'm looking at the ancient Hebrew, and I'm when we deal with the very first calendar, the very first day, is as we begin to progress with the Gregorian calendar, there's added days. So right now I'm just looking at my regular calendar here, and I'm calculating from the Hebraic school of thought, as far as exactly where the you was referring to the Passover, right?
Right, right.
All right. So let me just do the calculation real quick. 7. So the Passover would actually be the 5th of April.
For today, like in this day and age, like the question that I'm asking, right? The 14 would represent what? The first day, the second day, the third day. Which day?
Well, the 14th is actually the Passover, but then when we get into the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, it's the 15th day.
Right, but what I'm saying is, like for instance, we have Monday, we have Sunday. It would be equivalent to what day?
So when we look at Hebrew Sunday, for example, in Hebrew, basically when we deal with Moses, he didn't use names, right? He just said the first day of the week, the second day of the week, the third day, or whatever.
I understand that part, but what is confusing me, right? Let's say the Passover would be, because the thing is this, right? We normally hear verses says he rose on the first day, right? The first day would represents what day of the week today?
The first day of the week. So I think where you're getting at, if you let me know if I'm wrong, you're looking at the lunar calendar of the first day of the week, starting on a Sunday, will be a Sunday.
Right.
Like, yeah, and see, part of the problem, and I got to do it. I got a lesson that I did on that. I don't have the presentation in front of me, of showing that we'll see when, especially when you study First Samuel, when you deal with David. Actually, is it First Samuel? Yeah, David was on the run, and when he dealt with the shewbread, and you really map out those days there, you will see that it's not going off of what many teach with the lunar calendar, right? They would say that every month starts off with the first being on a Sunday. And when you study David with the shewbread in his interaction with King Saul, King Saul supposed to met with King Saul at a particular time. You can actually calculate that, and that alone will show you that, for example, the Shabbat was not the 7th. But I don't have my notes in front of me for us to teach that. But I think that's what that's what your question is. Is the first day of the week supposed to always start on a Sunday? Is that correct?
No. What I'm doing is this. I'm actually, I want to know, like, when we go, like, for instance, in hold on, let me try and open my Bible a bit. When we look at let's see. Okay, so Mark 15:42. Let me find it. Mark 15 verses 46. And now, when the even was come, because it was the preparation, that is the day before the Sabbath. Would this be a Friday?
No, actually, let me pull up my calendar here. This is, and I encourage you. I did a lesson. The detailed lesson is on it's a playlist that I call Foundation, and within there, I actually reconstruct the Hebrew calendar. I literally answer the questions that you're asking about that. But let me see if I have the one of the presentations up here, if I could pull it up to show you illustration here. Let me see here, because I think I know what you're asking.
Yeah.
Right, let me pull it up.
I think you need to protect your eye.
Let me pull it up real quick. Bear with me 1 second. I got so many presentations. Let me see. All right, let's pull this up here. He's not here. All right, here it is. All right, let's pull this up. And let me share the screen on this one. But yeah, that's the lesson I encourage you to peep out. That lesson, I really go into the details and really from reconstructing the calendar, showing what a day is, using scripture as all my references. Let me see here. Let me take this out. And I think I see Don P in the background. I'll bring you in a second, Don P, but I see you in the back. But let me see here. Let me bring this up. All right. All right, let me take this one out. All right. Okay, now let me share this. I'm just going to show you something real quick, but I encourage you to watch that series. It's called He Is Not Here. What day was the resurrection? I literally go through reconstructing the very first calendar and basically even the questions that you're asking, literally I address it in that presentation. Let me see here. I just want to give an illustration real quick. Where is it? I'm trying to share it. All right, why is it not coming up? Oh, here it is. No, that's not. Let's try it one more time. Let me try this again. Okay, let's see. Let's try this again. All right. Now let me try sharing this again. Hopefully this worked this time. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Let's see. All right, why does it keep doing this? I'm sharing it. All right. All right, there we go. All right, can you see the screen?
It's still loading. Yeah, I'm seeing it.
All right, let me show you this real quick. And again, I encourage you to watch that series because I literally go through this, and I'm not going to go too deep into this. I just want to give a quick answer because you was asking about you mentioned Mark. What scripture did you mention?
Mark 15:42.
All right, let me go to there. Mark.
It's the same thing in Luke 23:54, John
Yeah.
9:31.
Yep, I got all of that here. I have all of that here. This is a large presentation, so come on. I should have just did a search and went to it, but oh well. What was the verses again? Mark
15:42.
Okay.
I think it's the same thing in Luke 23:54, John 19:31. And
All right, but let me show you this. Let me show you this calendar here. Right? Let me show you this calendar. Okay. On the 10th, and this is lining right up with the very first calendar, right? The 10th is when the Messiah entered into the city, right? This is unfortunately the church celebrate this on the 11th to call it Palm Sunday, but I'm not going to get into all of that. But the Messiah enters the city on the donkey, when the people was celebrating Hosanna. But what's significant about this day is this day is also the day that Israel would select their lamb, right, to be sacrificed, right? So when we get over to the 14th, of course, that's the day that the Messiah was lynched, right? But also, let me put these up here.
The 14th on the calendar right there would represent what the
So this would be the Passover, but also the day of preparation, because the 15th is the day of unleavened bread, which is a Shabbat.
So that would be the 4th day on our calendar.
You are you referring to the Gregorian calendar? I'm kind of lost.
No, the calendar that you have on the screen right now, it says 1, 2, 3, 4. So the 14th actually fall underneath the 4th day.
Yeah, the 4th day. Yeah, that's the middle of the week. I got you. And then on the 15th, this is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And then the 16th, these are Shabbats right here, right? It's multiple Shabbats in this week. And that's what really confused a lot of people within the church, because they're taught the 16th is the day that he was crucified, and that they had to, it's the 17th, which was the Shabbat, the next day of Shabbat, when actually, no, it was the middle of the week, which is the 14th, the Passover and the day of preparation. It was the 15th, the first day of unleavened bread, which was a high holy day. So the 16th would have been a Shabbat as well. These would have been would have been Shabbats. Of course, 15th, the high holy day. This would have been a Shabbat, the 16th. And of course, the 17th would have been the traditional Shabbat.
Okay, so based upon what you're saying there, based upon what you're saying, right? The 14th right there, even though Mark 15:42 says, and now when the evening was come, because it was a preparation, that is the day before the Sabbath. That's not the
evening. Just to prove that point, let me show you here. That's why I encourage you to watch that lesson, because I literally go through exactly what you're asking. Let me show you here, right?
Yeah, man, I'm getting what you're saying. What I'm saying, what I'm asking you is this, right? In Mark 15:42, this Shabbat wouldn't be the weekly Shabbat. This would be the Passover Shabbat, right?
This would be the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is a Shabbat.
Right.
So let's just use this as an example, right? Let's just say this is the day of preparation to Passover, when the Messiah was lynched, right? So they had to get him down before evening, because when that evening kicks in, that is a high holy day. That is a Shabbat. This is now will be going into the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Right. I got you.
So so the actual high holy day was the feast of began with the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The day of preparation is when they would do all their sacrifices, would be on the Passover. Right.
So therefore that made Christ rose on a weekly Sabbath then.
Exactly. Right. He rose, and see, this last point I'll show you here, then I'll bring Don on when I say that there was multiple Shabbats, right? When you go to, for example, Mark 16, verse 2, right? It says here, very morning of one of Shabbats, right? So we see plural there. Then when we go to Luke 24:1, we see the same thing, of the Shabbats or Sabbaths of early one day. So John chapter 20, verse 1, and we see the Greek word is Sabbaton, which is plural. It says one of the Shabbats. So we see that there was multiple Shabbats that weekend. That week. The high holy day, as we just pointed out, and then of course the traditional Shabbat, which was that 17th. Not 17th. That weekend of, you know what I mean, the traditional 7th-day Shabbat.
Right. Yeah, and this makes sense, because verse 2 said in Mark 16, and very early in the morning, first day of the week, then came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. So he would have gone before the sun came up.
He was already gone. That's why the angel told him he's not here. You know what I mean? Because they went early in the morning, like the twilight of the day. Like the evening it's like that transition between the daylight portion of the day portion, the light portion of the day, and the night portion. So that evening is like right at sunset, you know what I mean? But the morning is the same thing. So he was already gone well in advance, right? So yeah, he was already gone.
Right. But I think what is throwing off most people, because 1542 says Sabbath, so they basically lump up the 7-day Sabbath together with with everything. So this is where the throw off came in.
Yeah, but see, when you read it in the Greek, because I used to teach it, I'm not gonna lie, I was a pastor. I mean, I am a pastor, but what I was doing is I was teaching the Christian approach to it. I was trying to make like that old saying, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, right? So I was trying to take 3 days and make a day and a half fit 3 days into it.
Right.
So here it is. I'm trying to prove that from Friday evening, right, to Sunday early morning before the Marians got there, I was trying to squeeze it in. I tried to do the impossible. I said it to our assembly. Hey, if someone can figure out how to get 3 days out of a day and a half, they will be the richest person in the world. They would be on all kinds of science magazines. The Pope would come up and shake their hand. The Pope would come to their house. You know what I mean? Because you just can't get it. If you work a job and they tell you you got 3 days off, you're going to say 3 days and 3 nights. You're not coming a day and a half.
Yeah, and there's no way, according to Matthew 12:40, for as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights. This is the key part, because it says 3 days and 3 nights. So he must complete the evening portion and the morning portion.
Absolutely. You got to go through those 3 full 24-hour cycles. You can't get around it.
Right. I was basically looking at it, but I want somebody with more understanding than I to clarify for me. So you did that just now.
Yeah, I appreciate it, my brother. And like I said, I have those 3 lessons there. If you get a chance, peep it out, because some of the things that I know, some of the questions that you asked here, we gave clarity, but it goes even deeper, like really lining everything up. And I guarantee you, when you go through it, you're gonna be like, okay, it's just that simple. But I give you all the scriptures, just the scriptures you highlighted. It's all there, literally, in the presentation.
All right, man. No respect, man.
All right, but hey, I appreciate you. Where you calling from, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm calling from Jamaica.
Oh man, peace and blessings to you out there. Peace and blessings to you. Really appreciate you guys out there, man. I got to get out there, man. My wife want to visit, so I got to get out there.
It's not many Hebrew Israelite group out here. We have like IUIC, we have GOCC. I think that's about it. Just a few,
Yeah.
Just a few persons here, really, But me myself, I do some research and I try to go out and show people and support, but I don't have a lot of information. I really, listen here, listen there, and share it with other persons. But I don't have that much information like how you would have the information. But I do have some understanding as to what is going on.
Yeah. Let me just say this real quick, because this is an edifying point right now. Brother, stay away from them. Stay where you're tuned in right now. Stay away from them. They are like the Seventh-day Adventists and the Roman Catholic Church and the Reformed Church or the Protestants. Stay away from them. That's false doctrine being taught. You're being fed right now the bread of life without leaven. Stay away from them. Trust me. I'm your brother. I'm giving you a warning. Stay away from them.
From who?
GOCC, all them people that's invading your space right now, they're metastasizing. They're a cancer. And how can they get to you physically when we have such a hard time? Why? Because the enemy funds his army. Remember, he comes as an angel of light. I know these people. I know their doctrine. It's leaven. It's leaven. And it's like, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Pharisees, they got all kind of leavened doctrine. And we can get into it, we can get into it, Most High willing. Look for me, I'm Don P. Look for me, man. We can get into it because here's the deal. Your heritage is what they're trying to give away. Okay? That's blasphemy. To say that these people are and when they're not the people, to attribute the whole essence of the Most High and what he says. And you got to look at the motive for it too. It's for filthy lucre.
Yeah.
It's for the God
Don.
of this world.
Hey,
yes,
Don.
sir.
And I appreciate you chiming in,
Yes, sir.
but I just don't want to, get into all of that tonight.
I'm gonna shut it down. I'm gonna shut that.
Yeah. Because for me, I look at like a lot of the stuff that we're seeing. A lot of it is due to what we've been subjected to. Some people, when all you know is lies that's been told to you, and then when you get some truth, and then on top of that, you have people that are not operating in the eldership of things. So I just really don't want, I really, when I look at it, I look at a lot of things contributed to what we see with some of our brothers and sisters. Because I know at one time I was out there, and people looked at me like I was crazy because I had a lot of anger on the inside built up because of the things that I've been subjected to and the lies that I've been told. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, definitely appreciate, my brother, the Bible and me. And do you have my email address?
No, I don't.
Okay. Let me put it in. I'm going to put it in the chat, and feel free if you have any questions on any subject, right? Let me know, and I'm more than willing to help you and assist you if you have any type of questions, or if if it's something that you come across in the scriptures that's just not making sense. Feel free to shoot me an email, okay?
Yes, man, no problem. Because I was Adventist for years, but things wasn't adding up for me, so I walk away.
Let's see. Hey, look, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and my mother, she was some of everything. She was a Jehovah's Witness. She was a Muslim, so I dealt with Islam. I dealt with Jehovah's Witness. I think she was getting closer to start worshiping bread. You know what I mean? Lettuce. She just dipped and dabbed in some of everything. So I got introduced to a number of different religions, even though she told us that we were the people of the book. But I still got introduced to a lot of different religions, and I learned a lot from different aspects and different viewpoints. And that's why really, I can stand firm where I am right now because of having to deal with those things in the past. But definitely appreciate you, my brother. But shoot me an email if you have any questions. But again, that foundational playlist is a great playlist to go through because a lot of the foundational things, like the questions about the virgin birth and things along that line, it's all inside that playlist.
Okay. Yeah, man, I will definitely take a look at the playlist, and take notes. If I have a question, then just drop the email in the box, and I will get to it.
Will do. Actually, I'm gonna put it in the private chat as well. I put it in the main chat, but I'm gonna put it in the private chat as well.
Okay. All right.
Let me put it there right now. All right, let's see here. Oops. And all right, there it is. Okay, I just sent it to you in the private chat.
All right, man. All right, cool. Let me copy it. All right, man. Thanks much, man. Gonna leave the studio now.
All right, keep in touch. All right, and I'm gonna try to get back into my routine of doing these lives Thursday, Friday. Thursday, of course, Shabbat night, which is the sixth day of the week, which we call Friday night, and also Saturday nights. And anytime, feel free to jump on. Okay.
All right, man. No problem. Thanks much. Shalom.
All right. Shalom. All right, Brother Don, what you got?
Well, sometimes when a door comes open, you got to walk through it. And so when the brothers start talking about familiar organizations that, shall we say, have a certain level and source of backing, it needs to be spoken about.
No, I think you misheard. Let me say something real quick. I think you misunderstood what he said, because what he said was he don't have any place out there. The only places that are out there, he mentioned, it was the GOCC and some other
Right. No,
campus.
I didn't mishear. No, I didn't mishear what he said.
No, but I'm saying, but he didn't say that he was attending those places. He was just saying he really don't have any options out there. So that's why he's putting it to the channel.
And that's why I was giving him a warning. Just because they're physically there, don't do it. Stay where you are. You're in a good place. Right here where you are, you're in a good place because of who these guys are. That was the warning. Just because they're physically there. And that's why I mentioned Seventh-day Adventists and all these other ones that physically penetrate the landmass to indoctrinate our people into their falsehoods. Stay where you are. Stay where you are. Stay on. We woke now. Stay in that assembly. Stay in Judea. Stay in that assembly. Stay in Ben Yasharel. Stay in those assemblies. They might be digital, but stay there where the truth is. I know we want to physically reach out to people and that feels good, but the deal is this. If it's a lie, it's still a lie. And that's what I was saying. Yes, they have the ability to have that reach because they got blue checks. Blue checks are always sponsored. And so that's what I was saying with that. That's why I had to chime in because, see, one of them almost got me into the lie and took me down that false road that runs adjacent to the broad road, which is Christianity. And I thank the Most High that he brought me into the truth to bring me out of the lies. No, our inheritance is not supposed to be split with any Gentiles. Y'all can come alongside if you want to, but here's the deal. This is what you got to adhere to. See, this is all about the hour of truth. We don't have time to play games.
Well, just real quick, and see for me,
the Most High
and
plan.
yeah, for me, if you notice me, I stay clear from all of that because I know a lot of the stuff that are out there, and where we are right now, I've dealt with a lot of battles in this community, and where I'm at right now, it's like, hey, some things I just have to let the Most High sort out, because I understand a number of people have gotten hurt by a number of different groups, whether it's in this community and outside the community. But I just don't want to, get into, kind of get into that space because of where we are with what we're teaching and really, like the scripture says, we have to be careful. Like when we separate the wheat from the tare, if you're not careful, and you can kill the wheat at the same time of trying to destroy the tare. So
Pastor,
already.
Are you a watchman?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so it says to cry aloud and spare not. If I know they're getting ready to go off of a cliff, which is what you would do with those two organizations, you go completely off of a cliff.
Yeah, but where I'm getting
if I
that,
don't cry aloud and don't spare them, then isn't there blood on my hands?
Yeah, but where I'm getting at, Don, I don't want to deal with that tonight. I don't want to take the discussion to going down the path of going at those guys. Why? Because we already dealing with a lot of people coming at us. You know what I mean? I just really don't want to get into that. It's more than enough people going at them. I just don't want to use this space of what we're just giving clarity to babes that are coming on here. I just really don't want to get into that space. I like I said, I don't agree with the doctrine. I don't agree with far as like some of the things that many are teaching. But right now, I just want to stay where we are. We got babes that are watching, and I just don't want that to hijack our conversation tonight because we had a great teaching tonight, and I just don't want to get into that space there because again, like I said, I understand where you're getting at as far as giving the warning, but again, I just believe that right now, I just don't want to get into all of that right now. Let's just focus on what we're dealing with right now.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Before you continue, let me
bring this and we'll be done with it. And we'll be done with it. Okay. It was all about just throwing the warning up because it was brought up and it needed to be addressed, whether by you or by me. It needed to be addressed in brevity. And that's why I try to, keep it there so it doesn't detract away from. But when someone brings it up, it needs to be addressed as, no, this isn't the way you should go. And the fact that you found yourself here and you have these questions, we're here to answer those questions. And so,
yeah, but see, let me say this, like the scripture says, a soft answer turn away wrath, right? So what I'm getting at is, a simple warning to, I understand you trying to warn a brother because, like I said, when I listened to him, it wasn't from a perspective of him saying that he's going to get involved with those guys. But what I would have said, I would have simply said, hey, just be careful. There's a lot of tables out here. Be careful what tables you eat from. I would have left it there. You know what I mean? But when we start getting into the other stuff, to me, that's just, right now, we don't need to get into all that because of where we are with the conversation right now. Because right now, we're not talking about the lesson. We're actually talking more about those platforms. So again, the brother made it clear. He didn't say that he's attending those places. And I know you want to give him a warning, but a simple warning would be, hey, use discernment, be careful with some of these different places out there, and just left it at that. That's how I normally handle situations like that.
I get what you're saying. I'm going to say this and I'm going to leave it alone. I think he was posing the question to you for the same reason why I am even here on your channels, because I consider you my pastor. So he was looking for some guidance, and that's why he kind of brought it up. And if I know these camps, see, I don't do camps. These camps are in error with what they're teaching, then if I feel like somebody's coming to me as potentially a sheep that's looking for guidance, then I'm going to be like, hey, listen, this is what I've seen, and that's not the direction you want to go. That doesn't walk into the way of life. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I just saw he was just looking for some guidance.
Yeah, and like I said, what I heard from him, it wasn't like he was going to serve. I mean, going to them. But for me, again, I understand your point. I understand what you're saying, but I think that from a perspective of just what we're pointing out, what we're discussing, for me, yeah, I may not agree with a lot of what the camps are teaching, right? But at the same time, right, they did do a lot of groundwork of bringing up this discussion, even with the awakening, right? So, with that being said, let's just let that portion of it go. Let's let that portion. Let's enjoy the rest of the discussion, because again, I just don't want to get away from what we taught about tonight. But like I said, I may not agree with many of some of the approaches of what I see of some of the people here, what I say here in this awakening. But they, a lot of the discussion was triggered by the camps. We can't get around it. But at the same time, like I said, that's why I just don't want to get into all of that, because again, it's a lot of that's a whole nother conversation that in itself.
That's real.
So,
that's real.
Yeah.
Outside of the topic, no, that's real. So I was talking to my aunt who just,
hold on 1 second, Don. Let me let Sister Candace, because I see Sister Candace.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, my bad.
Let me give him an opportunity. All right. How you doing, Sister Candace?
Okay. Can you hear me?
That's good. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm doing good.
That's great. That's great. Any comments for tonight, or are you good?
No, I'm good. I tuned in to find out why we don't have to honor the Passover.
Actually, the title is just echoing what some people actually believe and think, right?
Oh,
we honor the Passover here, so I encourage
that's
you to
what
watch them.
That's what I thought. It's supposed to be until all of your generations.
Yeah. Listen to the lesson. That's just me using as a title what many say, not keeping the Passover. I don't have to. So that's just the title of using like what many people within the church and some within this awakening would say they don't have to honor the Passover. So that's not me saying that I'm not honoring the Passover, because I make it clear we honor the feast days. We honor the Shabbat. So that's just a title that I use, because I know people going to see that title and say, hey, let me listen to it. Well, Pastor Kelly's saying he's not honoring the Passover. That's not what I'm saying.
That's exactly what happened. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm here now. So.
Yeah. So I appreciate it, sis. But yeah, that's just the way I purposely titled it that way, because I know
you got my attention.
All right.
You got my attention.
But yeah, if you listen to the lesson, and actually I've been teaching on honoring the Passover for the past, 3 nights in a row. So I'm not teaching against it, but I'm using the arguments that many people make against honoring the Passover.
There is one point that you brought up that really piqued my interest. It was your calendar, like you pinpoint to the 4th. I'm like, how do you? Am I on a wrong calendar or something?
Yeah, what I encourage you to do, because the explanation is pretty lengthy. There's on the playlist on the main page, there's a playlist that's titled Foundation. Under there's 3 lessons, and I literally walk you through what days, how to calculate the feast days, actually how to recreate the very first Hebrew calendar, and then go, really build off of there. I give scripture, I give sources and everything. And I think that'll be the best way to approach it. Listen to those lessons, and I'll walk you through. Literally, I'll walk you through the entire process.
Okay. How do I get to those lessons? Like I just saw this. I just saw this in the comments, and I clicked on it, and suddenly I'm on TV.
Yeah, if you go to the main channel, We Woke Now, right? When you go to We Woke Now, and actually, I'm gonna copy the playlist inside the chat, so that way you can see the link there as well. But when you go to the main channel page, you will see a list of playlists. Under there, you'll see one that says Foundational Teaching, and under there is where you would see all these different lessons here. The common discussions that many have questions on. You'll see Resurrection, episode 1, Set on Fire. Resurrection, episode 2, What Day Was the Resurrection? And then episode 3, the gloves don't fit. So those those 3 lessons actually will walk you through recreating the Hebrew calendar and actually show you how to map it out.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, sis. I pray that you have a blessed remainder of your weekend, and thank you for jumping on. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Blessings.
Pastor, are you related to
hold on 1 second,
Jediah?
Don. Hold up, Don. I got one more person real quick. I got Donna Spence. Let me bring her on real quick. All right. Let me see here. All right, Donna Spence. I see you here. All right, you still there, Donna? All right, I don't hear Donna there, so all right. All right, Don, what you got? Hey, Sister Carol, I see you in the chat, Sister Carol. Come on up here, Sister Carol. All right.
My question is, are you related to Jediah? Because you got so many cousins. You got so many cousins.
Who am I related to? Who again?
Jediah.
I don't even know who that person is.
He's a teacher. He's a teacher.
Okay.
Where you definitely look Igbo. He's of a lighter persuasion and stuff like that. But y'all got so many cousins. I'm like, they gotta be related some kind of way.
My grandfather had over 60 kids, literally. My great grandfather had over 60 kids. Literally. And from my grandmother alone, he had 24 kids just from my grandmother alone, my great grandmother alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the thing is this. It's like, there's a family of us. So I found you were brought to my attention through the Tail Network. And I also am affiliated with the Fruit Network. These aren't camps. We're not, because I know you don't consider yourself a camp. We're not camps. We're none of that stuff. And that's why I speak so harshly against it, because it is not the natural formation of things. It is more organizational and facilitated, resembling the world's formation of organizations and structures, not the Most High's. And so that's why I'm, if I seem hostile, it's because I love my people, and we have been deceived for so long. We have been deceived for so long by these people and their systems. How can you tell me that we're not under the law, but in order to be blessed, I gotta be under the law? Huh?
Hey, Don.
That doesn't make sense.
I'm going to ankle tack you, man. I don't want to deal with the camps, man. I really don't.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you. I feel you.
I don't want to deal with that
that just came
discussion.
to mind in terms of the caller that had the question, and he was really sincere in his heart in terms of where he wanted to go. But I can shut that down. We can cut that off.
Yeah,
That's a
because I
conversation
really
for
don't want
another
to.
day. But
Yeah, because
no, what you were talking about was really important. What you were talking about was really important, and we have to follow that. We have to follow that because we are under the agreement that we made, and that's to follow the statutes, to follow the laws, the standards, and the judgments of the Most High. And this is a very important one of it because our salvation really hinges upon this. He is the fulfillment of all of those sheep that were slaughtered. I even say the goats that were sacrificed as a trespass offering, or even the scapegoat.
Can you hear me?
I'm gonna drop back and let the sister speak.
All right. Sister Donna, you still there? Sister Donna,
Can
you
you hear
still
me?
there? You I can hear you a little. I can hear you now.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Your signal is real
Evening.
weak though.
She can't hear you.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. I see someone else here. I got you, Sister Karis. One more person real quick. Let me see here. All right. I see AG.
Shalom, Pastor Kelly and rest of the panel and everybody in the chat. How are you doing?
Doing great yourself?
I'm doing good, doing good. All praises to the Most High. Hey, great lesson, man. I always listen in on your Sabbath lessons, man. And I was just thinking, because I love hearing the breakdown of the Passover. And I think this is one of my favorite lessons because when I was in church, it was something in the back of my mind where I was like, I felt like there was more to this story, when Easter would roll around. And I would always, I would be sitting in church and I would be like, I feel like there's more to the story. And I would try to read, through Matthew and Mark. I would try to read through but I just couldn't get it until when the Most High allowed me to wake up, understanding that it wasn't only the Passover, it was the Feast of Unleavened Bread that was going on also. And so when I started learning about that, I was like, okay, now that makes sense now, with the whole, it dismantled the whole Good Friday, and on the third day, which was Sunday, he rose. It dismantled that whole thing that I was taught, that whole ideology I was taught, that doctrine that I was taught. And I asked a couple pastors, because I'm from South Carolina, so I'm from the Low Country down there. We're like 45 minutes away from Savannah, up 95, and I did ask some pastors about when I was learning this truth, and the answers I got was, we don't have to celebrate that no more. That's for the Jewish people, and those were the two answers that I got. And it just, now that I'm hearing, especially with this lesson tonight, it just made me think, like, man. And I thought about this probably a few years ago about going to theologian school and being a spy, and just to sit in there to see what they're teaching them, and see how they're teaching them about these certain topics. And but I've never done that. I was like, nah, I'm not even gonna waste my time. But it was just something I always thought, like, man, you know what? I should enroll in theologian school and just sit in there, go with the program, and just learn like how they teach our people this doctrine, for them to come back to our communities and spread it in our community.
Well, that's why I teach what I teach, because I've been there. You know what I mean? I know the whole the institutional side of it. I mean, because truth be told, every seminary is based off of a theology, right? And they're pushing a theology, whether it's Calvinism, whether it's covenant theology, whatever, regardless of what it is, each one is pushing a theology. And they just designed the entire curriculum around that theology. So, I mean, for me, I just wanted to know the arguments. And actually, the reason why I went is because, I'm an IT person, right? And actually, I took a lot of seminary courses at the age of starting at the age of 13. But my pastor, when I was in Kojic, told me that, hey, in order to be an elder, you had to have a degree in divinity, right? And there was a whole nother thing with that, even though that wasn't, I found out that wasn't true, right?
Yeah.
But I went on and did it, didn't tell him what school I was going to. I just went on and did it.
Yeah.
And once I graduated, I told him, hey, I graduated, here's my diploma, right? So, but for me, it was just wanting to know the arguments. I really didn't care too much about it. But again, you do learn a system of how to approach the text. And of course, again, everything is going to center around the tenets of what's being pushed. You could go to seminary, and by the time, you could go all the way up to a doctorate degree and never read the Bible in its fullness. You know what I mean? So it's just an institution that's teaching a theology. So that's why you have a lot of pastors that don't, have gone through seminary and really don't see the scriptures for what they are. They regurgitate what they have been taught. Is a systematic approach, a methodology of how you approach the text, but it's still going to reinforce the tenets of those religions that those seminaries built on.
And so is that so maybe, and I guess that's the reason why when we go out and we ask these questions to our pastors, they really can't give us a straight answer. Like they so they don't teach. So they teach them like what they want to teach them in seminary, but they don't prepare them for the questions that have come from like us that are claiming our heritage. Us Israel, saying we're all Israelites. Even my folks back home, even though they don't agree, but they're Israelites. But for us Israelites that are in the truth, when we ask that question, when we ask them these questions, they study like how to combat that, or they just don't prepare them for the type of questions that, once somebody starts waking up, and they go ask them, they don't prepare them for that, do they?
Well, they prepare them to defend their theology. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever's the
Okay.
theology, you're going to know how to defend that theology based upon being inside a box. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
but you're not going, to learn far as how to go against those that may, if we consider, I'm gonna take the boxing analogy, right? You have conventional fighters and you have unorthodox fighters, right? The
Yep.
southpaw is pretty much like the hardest ones to fight against because most
The
fighters are prepared to
unorthodox.
fight traditional fighters, those that are
Yeah.
in traditional stance. So that's pretty much like the analogy when you are taught a certain way to a certain methodology of how to approach the text. So you can deal with a lot of the conversations, like if you was dealing with Jehovah Witnesses, if you were dealing with Seventh-day Adventists and that type of thing. But when
Yeah.
you deal with people that, for example, you really wasn't prepared to deal with, those that are actually going to go into the scriptures and, do the proper exegete of a
Yeah.
text, really doing the proper biblical hermeneutics. And I'm not saying all are doing it in this awakening, but yeah, and going into certain portions of the text that you're not really,
Yeah.
truth be told, you're not really going into. You have what they
Yeah.
call the Old Testament, but you're not really going into doing a thorough study of it. You have things like Old
Yeah.
Testament survey, New Testament survey, but it's not you learning Torah.
Okay.
So,
And it,
yeah.
okay. And then one question: how do they teach the 3 days and 3 nights? How do they teach that?
Well, again, they teach, number one, that the Messiah rose on a Sunday, right? That's what
Okay.
and again, they'll teach this thing where as though 5 minutes in a day, like if you, let's just say, we experience only 5 minutes of a day. Well, you
Yeah.
count that entire 5 minutes as a 24-hour cycle, right? So that last couple of hours, Messiah,
Yeah.
gave up his last breath a couple hours before Passover, right? The evening. So they count that small little section as being a full day.
Yeah. Wow.
Then they count Saturday per se, and then whatever they consider, they know that they were already gone from the sepulcher, so they just make the assumption that,
Yeah.
hey, he was gone. So, but that still counts as that
Yeah.
after midnight, because that's how they process it, at midnight,
Yeah.
not evening to evening, but at midnight. Oh,
Yeah.
that's another day. So they count it as a
Yeah.
full 24-hour cycle. That was the common thing that a way it was taught. But again, for myself, when I actually decided to do an in-depth teaching on it, it was like, wait a minute, this not making
Yeah.
any sense.
Yep.
3 days and 3 nights is still 3 days and 3 nights. You can't get a day and a
Yeah.
half. You can't make it into a day and a
Yeah.
half. So
Yep.
again, it's because you're taught to view the scriptures from a certain lens, so you can be completely blinded from the true meaning of the text. Also, you're taught, and I'm sure you heard this before, and then I let my sister Carol get in here. But hey, you know what? The scriptures can have a number of different meanings. It can mean one way to you and mean another way to me. We can have multiple different revelations over it. That's not true.
Yeah.
The scriptures are not ambiguous, right? They
Yeah.
say what they mean and they mean what they say. So those
Yep.
are some of the things that are kind of like traps when it comes, and opens up a lot of doors for a lot of messed up theologies, ideologies being pushed. I had someone I was dealing with earlier today, and they were like, hey, I got my own opinion. This is my opinion of how I see the text. Wait a minute. Respectfully, your opinion doesn't matter. My opinion
Nope.
doesn't matter. It's what the text actually says that matters. So
And
that's what we. Go ahead.
Oh go ahead, Pastor Kelly. I'm
So
sorry.
that's my point. Is just you're learning how to a certain perspective of how to view the scriptures. Man, you got so many theologies out there. I actually had to take a class called Theology of Grace. That was a great class, actually. But you learned that people are so stuck in their ways. The theology of grace, they were killing each other over their disagreements. Wait a minute.
Wow.
So you have a theology of grace that's different from the other, but because you don't agree with what I say, I'm going to have you killed. Let me see. I think I had a book over here on my shelf here.
And Pastor Kelly, and this will be the last thing. I know I'm a baby in this, right? I've been on this walk for 6 years, so I still consider myself a baby because I'm still learning. But I can go in that Bible and read that Bible in its proper context. And I have sat down with a junior pastor, and we've gone into some scriptures, and he actually had to sit back because once we started reading the scripture, and as I'm reading the scriptures, I'm asking them questions. Like when I asked them, as it began to dawn to the first day of the week, I asked them, I said, as it was dawning, that doesn't mean it's the first, that doesn't mean it is the first day of the week. It's dawning. And I was like, if both Marys came to the sepulchre and he was already gone, that means he didn't rise on the first day of the week. And we went over that thing so many times, and he just had to sit back and was like, I see what you're saying, and it was almost like, dang, I have to stick with what I've learned, but man, this brother is making sense. You see what I'm saying? And so,
but in a nutshell, that's what it boils down to. Many of them, it's a lot because you invested so much money into these schools, only to realize that a lot of it was just a weight, a paperweight, a door stopper. So some of them going to hold on to it. They're going to hold on it. They're going to fight it to the end. And some people, got to ask the question during evangelism. Ask them the question: hey, if your job told you have 3 days off, give you 3 days, what day are you showing up on? And some of them, because they want to hold on to the lie, they said, well, I'm going to come back. I'm going to report to work in a day and a half. And I was like, come on now. You're lying.
Yeah.
But
to defend their stance.
To defend it all the way to the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
man.
But my brother, I got my sister Carol here. I want to hold keep her in the back.
To the back.
But hey, I appreciate you. And thank you for jumping on. And thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate you.
Oh, yeah. Always, Pastor Kelly.
Hey, Sister Carol.
Well, you've been busy tonight.
Yep. How you doing, sis?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just
shalom.
Yeah. How was your Shabbat?
It was good. Very restful. Rewatched your video last night that I missed. I watched it this morning for my Shabbat service, so that worked out well. But I like this time of year. I love when these teachings come out because you can see how convoluted everyone is in their thinking when it comes to this time of year. The first month of the year, which is around springtime, when springtime comes. When the spring equinox happens, it's when springtime, it's when the first of the year is. And that was on the 20th? So the new moon was the next day. So if you read in Exodus 12, Moses spelled it out perfectly on what to do, how to count, what's a month to month. Because remember, Hebrew calendar is only 30 days. So you're counting 30 days every month. But to live in a Gregorian calendar, which we live in, you have to count differently. So if the new moon was on the 21st, then the sundown 21st to sundown 22nd is 1 day, from 6 to 6, 6 to 6. And you count from there. If you keep that same calendar counting throughout the whole year, it's continuing, because you got more feast days coming up. It's not just these feast days. You have the fall feast days. You count the Omer after Passover, after the resurrection. Now that whole process, first fruits, all of that has to be counted. So you continue counting these days, you will stay in rhythm with the Most High, which is why
And
he
see,
called. Go ahead.
yeah, and the key is, and I think what many
Oh, I missed you. Count out. You went out.
we know that. Let's just say, if let's just say April has 31 days in it,
Mm-hmm.
but we know the Hebrew calendar has 30 days.
Right.
So we know that even though April doesn't have 31 days, but I'm just using that as an example.
I got you.
But let's just say if I'm calculating my days, right, to get to the blowing of the trumpets, but by the time I get there, according to the Gregorian calendar, let's just say if there's 3 months that has 31 days, then that means that I had 3 extra days on the calendar that I have to subtract from the number.
Right.
So those are some of the things that they have to take in consideration, that making sure that you're not, you're taking in consideration, like with the Gregorian calendar, there's extra days that's going to, by the time you get to certain days, you're going to have additional days there.
Right.
And you have to account for those days.
And you got 1 month, you got days is less. So you got February's 28 days. In the so-called one, which is funny to me, the leap year, you have 29 days. So all of that. So all that to be taken into consideration.
Yeah. So it's really pretty simple, it's really simple. And I see a question here. I see Daniel from Detroit asking the question: new moon or no moon or full moon. I encourage you, go to the playlist. There's 3 lessons there based on the resurrection, but it's really dealing with these dates, and I break that down. I encourage you to go there. But really, the first new moon after the spring equinox is the first day of the month for Israel. And then you just make your calculations from there. Some will go with the full moon, but actually, when we look at the scriptures, it's the new moon.
New moon.
Chadash. It's the new moon after the spring equinox. That's how you calculate it. But watch those 3 lessons, and I really go into the details of it.
And new moon and new moon is a month. When you have a new moon, you're starting a new month. Keep that. That also allows you to keep for 30 days. When you have a new moon, there's a new month.
Yeah.
I'm reading. People are discussing yeast, but leaven, and the leaven is yeast by food product. Remember, our people didn't have time to make their bread like you normally will make it, which is when to make bread rise, you have to put yeast in it, for the bread to rise. Now, a lot of times you can buy flour with it already in there, so it has self-rising flour, which means it has yeast in it. But you buy this plain oat flour, it doesn't have yeast in it. You have to add yeast into it to make rolls, so make bread for it to rise. So that is what you have to take out of your house. Any products that have yeast in it, and you would be surprised the products that have yeast in it, like ketchup has yeast in it. Any type of pop has yeast in it, or soda water, whichever regions of the country you're in, when you call carbonated drinks, has yeast in it, which is what that bubbly thing that's going on inside the soda, that's yeast. Those are the type of things you have to get out your house for us product wise, if you do that. And for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Where'd you go? You still there? Disappeared on me.
No, I'm still here. I'm listening to you,
Okay.
sis. I had to turn my camera off.
I gotcha.
So I was kind of trying to drink some of this
Gotcha.
juice here, but I have I don't have a glass here. I just grabbed the bottle, so I ain't want to have this big Simply Lemonade jar bottle on the camera. So
Right. And
but
then right, but normally we start doing this time of year before Feast on Unleavened Bread. You start eating up all your leaven you have in your house. Try to get as much bread as you can out your house. It's symbolic, of course. But so by the time Feast on Unleavened Bread is here, then you don't have any of that in your house. But the real leaven you're getting out your body, your attitude. That's the leaven.
yeah, and the key, family, when you study it, as Sister Carol pointed out, they didn't have time to sit there and wait for the bread to rise.
Yeah.
Right. So if they put the yeast in, you still have to let the dough sit.
And cover it.
For exactly, but they ain't have time for that. It was like, hey, we got to go now.
Now,
some of us, we people of the book, right? We procrastinate, man. They like,
Yeah.
look, you have to go now. You ain't got time. Well, let me at least, let me sit here for a little while. I was watching my favorite show. Or let me go ahead and get,
my red bottoms on.
let me get my iPhone. Let me get my iPad. But don't leave everything else that's important. Don't get your Social Security card. Don't get your birth certificate. Don't get your important papers. But let me get my iPhone.
Right.
So, but that, with they were letting them know that they don't have time to delay.
Right.
They need to move with the quickness. You know what I mean? And I remember when this is a true story, and we get ready to wrap this up. But I remember when I rescued me and a friend of mine named Lamar. We rescued this old lady, right, from her house was on fire, right. So here it is. I'm at my house, and a friend of mine, Delonte Lamar, came over while me and Lamar was in the house playing a video game or whatever. And he's like, hey, Rich. He's like, hey, man. He's like, the smoke's supposed to come out of the top of your house like that? And we looked. It's like, wait a minute. That house is on fire. So we run down to the lady house. And, man, knocking on the door. Ring the doorbell. And I was like, man, the screen door is locked. So someone's in it. So broke the screen door, literally bamming on the door. No one's coming in. So broke the door in. And this old lady come walking out. Literally flames are like coming from the back of the house. And she's so busy about trying to get her cup off the stove.
Yep.
Basically, in a nutshell, she had a little alcohol in her. She was making a hot toddy that got out of hand.
That's
but
right.
all she wanted, she wanted her cup, a special cup.
She wanted
it's
her
like, look,
gift.
I am not running in this house looking for a special cup, flames coming out and everything. So yeah, but that's how we do. Remember Lot. The angels had to say, look, come on, man, pulled them out of hand. So the Feast of Unleavened Bread was the same thing. The people ain't have time to wait for the dough to rise. They had to take what they could get and keep it moving.
That's right. Absolutely. And we're going to do the same thing one day.
Yeah.
Get them moving. But I also want to say to this too, your question about not keeping the Passover. We don't have to do that anymore. Well, what was Christ doing? The Messiah was doing at the Last Supper, the so-called Last Supper.
He was eating.
Who was eating?
He's eating with his disciples. Look, hey, you don't have to tell me, but some people, you already know, some people tried to say that that Last Supper had nothing to do with the Passover. And I'm talking about people from the church.
And it says in the book, but it spells it in the book.
Hey.
Prepare the Passover.
Some people don't care.
Go ask Mr. Johnson over there. Can we borrow his donkey? Go ask Mr. Jenkins over there. Can we use his house? Because we want to go. We want to have the dinner there. Come on now. It's in the book. And then the other funny part is this is the most slap in the face thing. It's the first Sunday in church. What are you doing? Now this is the last sacrament, Last Supper. We remembrance in Christ. He broke bread and gave it to his disciples, saying, come on now. That's an insult.
Yeah. Let me answer this question real quick. So the Shabbat changes weekly. No, right? The Shabbat doesn't change weekly. And I want to be careful. I'll say to you guys, be careful if you're downloading calendars off of certain places, because again, the seventh day Shabbat is the seventh day Shabbat. 30-day months, period. And I'm not trying, and I don't want to sound anal with this, because you got some people, they'll try to, with their certain calculations, they try to make make the seventh fall on the seventh day Shabbat and all kinds of stuff. The Shabbat is the Shabbat. It doesn't change. It's not going to be on a Wednesday, one day, which is the middle of the week, and then be on a Saturday. Or, that's not how it works. The 7-day week. The 7-day cycle is a 7-day cycle. And this is where you have to be careful, because, again, when people get into this lunar calendar stuff and they see, let's just say if they see some extra hours there because of the way that they're calculating, they still try to make it into, force the calendar to still try to do what they wanted to do. So I'm saying this again. No, the Shabbat does not move from the first day from, let's just say, the 7th day of the week to the middle of the week, unless you're dealing with a feast day.
Feast day, right? I was about to say that.
See, this is one of the things that many people will try to say, is that, hey, you know what? We don't know what day it could be. No, yes, we do know what the day could be, right?
Exactly.
We don't. If the ancient people knew how to come up with a calendar, accurate calendar based off the sun and creating a sundial, then we could do the same. That's why you had the signs and wonders before us. And in those 3 lessons, the first lesson, I deal with signs, showing that you can recalibrate and guess what? Get the exact days of the week squared away. So it wasn't the days of the week that was an issue. The issue was what constitutes being a month, because you had 30 days in the ancient communities like the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and the Romans, the Greeks. They had 12-month years and 30-day months, right? So the issue was when they started tweaking that calendar, adding days, because the Egyptian calendar was 360 days. Then they added 5 days. That's where a lot of the confusion comes into play. So when we go off the ancient calendars, 30 days, 12-month years, and in the scriptures, you're not going to find a 29.5 day. You're not going to find a month with 29.5. You're not going to find a month that says 31 days, right? But in the ancient Hebrew calendars, they had 30-day months. You can't get around it. 7-day cycles, 7-day cycles. And if you just keep those basic things right there, that'll make a world of a difference of eliminating a lot of the confusion that is out here, because it's a lot of stuff that is circulating that is completely off when it comes to understanding these calendars. Hey, I had a few people in this awakening try to tell me that there's only 12 hours in a full 24-hour cycle. I mean, a full day cycle. I'm like, wait a minute. No. Well,
No.
look, they go to Christ's words, taking it out of context. Look, he said it right here. There's 12 hours in a day. He's referring to the daylight portion, the light portion of the day.
Right.
Because he's referring to a man walking in the light portion of the day, not stumbling. So again, these are some of the things that are out there. So I just want to say to you, family, be careful of the information that you're downloading, because there's a lot of information that is just not right. No matter how we look at it, it's just not right. It's all over the place.
Wow.
And been dealing with this for quite some time, and that's what prompted me to do that detailed lesson about the days. Not only the days, I did the hours, right?
You sure
I did the whole
shebang.
So you, and literally using the Hebrew letters to show you that one of the letters is actually a dial You know, I did
Right.
all of that. It's right there.
And your very
Reconstructing the calendar.
and your very first lesson you did years ago when I met you, you made us pull out a piece of paper and we made 5 calendars. And you had us go in and create our own calendar. And that's what I've been keeping up with ever since that day. That night we did that. And it was on Facebook.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, now it's like you know, many people don't even want to listen or watch lessons. They want
No.
just to go straight to, hey, tell me how to do this. Like, look,
Yep.
it's right here. It walks you through.
Yep. We are the microwave people. We want it quick, fast, and a hurry. And it's sad because you're missing out on so much information. And it's not getting, and you would think it would be getting better, but it's getting worse.
Yeah.
It's not, there's
Yeah.
no turn, there's no stopping. It's like it's just a continuous cycle of the same thing. It's like nothing is sticking. And it come out
Yeah.
with some new stuff. When you think you got that taken care of, some new stuff come out. And then you go back to the old stuff again, you got to regurgitate that again. It's like, what's really going on? And it's sad.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
But hey.
Well, I tell you, for me, that's why I said I'm not getting caught up with a lot of the stuff that's out there. I'm just, you know, doing what the Most High called me to do, just teach the truth and let the people sort out what they want to sort out.
That's it.
You know, because unfortunately, you know, people going to do what they want to do regardless.
Right.
And you know, some things I just don't even want to be bothered with. It's like some arguments, I just let the people argue. You know what I mean? I'm staying out of it. Because again, most people just don't want to read for themselves. They want you to take accountability for them instead of them saying, look, I read what's in front of me and this is the deal. No, but they want you to take accountability. I mean, so like I said, it's the information is there, family. I encourage you guys, go back and watch those presentations. This year, I'm not teaching that lesson in its entirety because it's already there. It is a detailed lesson.
Yep.
And, you know, like I said, I'm just not doing it.
Very thorough lesson.
You know, and I can guarantee you when you watch that, just go through the foundational playlist. You go through there, I can guarantee you are going to get the answers to the questions, the basic questions that you're asking.
Absolutely. And rewatch it again if you didn't get it the first time.
Yeah.
Continue to rewatch until you finally get it.
Yeah.
To the point where you're teaching.
I'm about to take it down because this went a lot longer than what I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
It's like after over 3 hours. And, you know, I try to keep it much less than that. But I'm about to take it down. And, you know, hopefully when people watch it, they don't think that this lesson is really a 3-hour lesson because it's not.
No.
But again, I really appreciate it, sis, for you jumping on. I'm about to take it down. You already can see where my eyes are.
Yes, I do.
You know, and so they're barely open, and you know, don't want to have someone knocking on my door, asking me to be drug tested. You're right. Rumors go around like, hey, look at Pastor Kelly's eyes. Look at him. You know, this is what happened. My eyes get like this when I get sleepy. Right. And actually, I already naturally sleepy, but it gets worse.
Right.
So, but anyone you want to put in the garbage can as we wrap up?
The title of this message, churches that refuses to teach Passover properly. Put them in a trash can.
Absolutely. I think one of the lady that jumped on there, I think she was ready to throw me in the trash can. She was like, wait a minute.
I'm like, not again. Here we go again. Another person who watched the video popping on the panel to talk. I'm like, what is really going on?
Yeah. But all right, sis, let me go ahead and close this out here. Okay. Family, in the words of Moses, Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. The words that Moses had to give to the people from the Most High: fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, you don't ever have to deal with them ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker. You have to hold your peace. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the... Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10,